Yeah, it's like a little whiteboard deskmate that you can make sticky notes and it automatically, and then you could save it on a file and transfer it over, and electronic notebook that can print out and make PDF. All this because I started doing the same thing. Where is it? It's right over there. But I just went old school. Kept my little idea notebook. Like the green monster. You remember how you said the knowledge books, and but they got all these fancy notepads, man. Like you can highlight it and save it, and
No, it's good to have like a field manual or I mean a little pocket book
yeah,
for your
little
ideas
writing
down.
rain books.
All right,
I
I'm
need
going to
to.
introduce you guys real quick. Hey guys, thanks again for tuning in to Righteous Dad Podcast. Today I got a special guest, Matthew Dixon. Uh, he was a Marine for 12 years, got out, and he's got an interesting story. Worked as a police officer for 5 years, but also a detective in narcotics. Done a bunch of undercover work, about 250 cases over 3-year time period, and such things like murder for hire, arms trafficking, and infiltrated some gangs and stuff. So I just wanted to get him on the story or on the podcast, tell his story. Not to mention, he is the co-founder of MVP, My Veteran Passion, which I'm honored to be a part of. And I've had some other guests on the podcast recently. You guys know Doc Soto. He was a guest host as well. But I'm also very, very happy to have Mr. Andrew Jordan Pratt. He was gone for a couple of episodes. He was doing some dinosaur work for Jurassic World with Chris Pratt. I'm pretty sure he was one of the stunt doubles that got killed right away. So he got to do some
Eaten by the
back stuff.
dinosaur.
So what you been up to, Andrew?
Not much, man. I took a dinosaur skull back with me from the from the show.
I still see that you don't got the Tyrannosaurus Rex semen spinning on the plasma separator.
Yeah, I want to get like
If that's the case, we got to do an in-person podcast then.
But thank you so much, Matthew, for being a part of the show, man. And ever since meeting you in Austin, Texas, you're just hilarious. And I was like, this guy would be a cool person to get on. Plus, you have a badass story, man. Like reading your background of kind of what you were doing in the Marine Corps, and then also getting out of the Marine Corps, and then still serving. You're kind of doing it in a capacity a little more undercover than maybe Doc. Doc likes to shave his eyebrows and get his face out there a little bit more. But I know behind the scenes, you're doing a lot of stuff with My Veteran Passion. So I thought it was really important to give you a moment in the spotlight, man. So thanks for being on.
I don't even know what to say to follow up with an intro like that. So, I mean, guns, that's, I was telling my girlfriend, and, once I met you, it's just like, the vibe was there. The same energy was there. Everything just really flowed. There was nothing ever forced. There was nothing ever, it just kind of like how a group of veterans, when they get together, they just really mesh and they really get in to one another, and that was just that same feeling. You have expectations of yourself, and starting this podcast. So thank you very much. And Andrew, of course, it's been an absolute pleasure meeting you as well, and seeing y'all's previous episodes, and just really like everything that you're all about and just talking about. So thank you very much. I'm honestly humbled and seriously humbled that you guys asked me to come here. So thank you.
Yeah, it must be pretty cool. I've never been on a podcast myself besides trying to host a podcast, but I never even had a chance to talk about what I like to talk about. You know what I mean? It's more like, but I think it's an honor just to be on a platform where people are watching it. And then I think it's so cool to be able to have, inspirational people on and being able to share like the value of whatever wisdom or things that they're doing. And I think, and Andrew can probably agree with me, is when we are talking as friends, like we nerded out on just bettering ourselves, but also it's just like everybody has a story. And a lot of people, if you don't write a book, your story kind of gets lost.
Right.
And with technology nowadays, I think it's so awesome that we live in a time where it's as easy as using your cell phone with an idea and starting a podcast and throwing it up on YouTube. Now we can leave a legacy, and this will be forever, recorded, because I know there's a recording because it's up in the top left, because I'm not going to do that again sorry, Nicole, if you're watching this, but yeah. So now it's actually in history. So what's kind of cool is, in 10 years from now, and we all talk about Joe Rogan's podcast where he had snowflakes in the beginning, we get to see the beginnings, the humble beginnings of Righteous Dad podcast and kind of what you're trying to do. So I think for anybody watching this, if you guys want to do something like that, man, go for it. So, but yeah, reading your history about what you did in the Marine Corps, kind of growing up, I wanted to allow you to kind of talk about some things, and it's kind of wherever you want to take the discussion. But I know you joined the Marine Corps and you served with Doc Soto, correct?
Yes, yeah, I did. So I joined. I didn't graduate high school per se. I was a half a credit short. So I went, through. It's pretty cool that the recruiter had told me, he's like, hey, where's you getting your GED? He's like, no, I'm going to summer school. Asked who my teacher was, and he told me the guy. Oh, I told him the guy's name. He's like, oh man, I'll get you out of that class in a week. I was like, well, dude, it's like a 4 month long course. I got it. It's summer school. I have to have it to graduate. He's like, no, I'll get you in boot camp like next month. I was like,
This
okay.
was the recruiter did?
Yeah, this is the recruiter.
You need to
like
make that mission, bro.
Oh, dude, I mean, like this was 2003. So, I mean, they were just like open arms, welcome, like, hey, everybody come in. We love everybody. So I walk in Monday morning, walk into that class and walk past his desk. And he goes, hey, Dixon, come here. I said, yes, sir. He goes, you joining the Marine Corps? I said, yes, sir. He goes, you going to graduate? I said, absolutely. He goes, okay. Here's your final test. Go take it. I look down. It's on African American history. I said, sir, I'm not even studying African American history for my half credit. I'm taking another class that they just picked for me. And he's like, no, it's all right. The book's on your desk over there. Just go sit down, look in your book, take the test. If you get something wrong, I'll take care of it. So I was like, Roger that, sir. So gave it to him, and I was in boot camp before I even got my diploma. And
it's that white privilege, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
just
exactly.
Sorry, YouTube. Sorry,
privilege.
YouTube. But I want Matt to feel I want him to feel comfortable on saying whatever he wants to say. I don't give a shit if I get taken off. I got Spotify. I'm just saying.
No, I'm good with it. I mean, no, it's shit. He got me out of there, and I upheld my bargain and went in and fucking graduated. And I went in complete open contract because I took the ASVAB and I didn't score high enough to become an electrician. He wanted me to be that. Didn't score high enough, so I went complete open contract and ended up getting artillery.
That EO is a motherfucker. Well, artillery, you have to be pretty good too. But it's kind of funny because you came in 2003?
Yeah. Yep.
I came in 2004.
Damn.
But yeah, it's like kind of different, right? So like, I know you thinking you're like, man, I could be almost at 20 years too. I know
no, next year, May 27, 2023, I'd hit 20 if I stayed in.
Yeah, I just found out I'm in zone for Master Sergeant. So
no shit.
Yeah, so I'll be getting looked at in October, but I don't know. Put on another year. But yeah, times have kind of changed with the Marine Corps. Like back in the day, my brother, I shouldn't be airing all this shit out, but anyways, I had to go to court a couple of times, and I had a little help from my recruiter too that tried to help, you know what I mean? And now we can't do those kind of things. So
right. Yeah.
It was different times though. And definitely with 9/11 and everything that happened, absolutely. I think, it was like, let's go. And then get to boot camp. It's like 99% of you guys are going to Iraq.
Yeah.
Nah, not me. You know what I mean? I'm like, nah, ain't gonna happen. My ass was in 4 months once I checked in, you know what I mean? Like, holy shit. So fast forward a little bit. So you meet Doc, you guys were out there. You were India Battery 3rd Battalion, 10th Marines as an artillery cannoneer, right? So you were there with the 26th MU. So you guys were kind of at the same thing. And then you guys also went over there and then you lat moved, right? Later on.
Yeah. I lat moved into infantry.
So your tactics and specialized in close quarters combat. And you guys were doing some stuff with like what, the Estonians or something like that. Where were you guys at?
Yeah, it was actually my last deployment. Now I was in the reserves. So, once I got off active duty, I re-enlisted in the reserves, and then that's when I lat moved. But we went to the Republic of Georgia. Zumas that was on Salt the Sailor Talk tonight.
Yeah,
that was one of my cool. Great dude. Love him. He was a damn good fucking Marine too, man. Mm-hmm. Like he was my FDC chief. Whenever I was platoon sergeant for 81s.
So what's FDC? Forward
fire direction control.
Fire direction control.
So you have your FO, your forward observers out there, and they're calling in the targets, right? So once they call in the targets and they give their adjustments, FDC gets the grid and they spin it up on their plotting board, get the deflection and elevation, and then we push it out to the gun line, drop the 81s, and
So you
adjust
guys
from.
hitting like a 10-digit coordination or 12-digit? How close you guys
Well,
get?
technology now. I mean, I'm sure you can get a hell of a fucking grid out there. You know what I mean? Like, but normally we like to get an 8-digit grid. I mean, that's like bare minimum.
Is that
If you
100
have
meters?
yeah. I mean,
So,
8-digit grid. I mean, you can get an 8-digit grid pretty quickly, especially if you're an FO and you have time to actually set up your, you're observing your impact area and everything else. You can spit out an 8-digit grid, manually. But technology now, of course, we'll take a 10,
it's
more
badass.
digits we can have, the more accurate we'll be, so.
Hey,
So-
what do y'all mean by
So I was just going to
a
say,
grid?
Andrew's probably like, what the hell? So, and also
Okay.
the viewers.
Yeah, so like if you look on a grid, you have your deflection and elevation. Elevation, obviously, up and down. Deflection goes left and right. And what it is whenever they shoot out and they get the position of where they want the rounds to impact, it's on. They have a grid square, and they get
remember, it's like
basically
Battlefield, like Battleship. I never played
Yeah.
Battleship where you have
like
like
F7.
A1, F7. Yep.
And so instead of F1, A7, all that stuff, it's a digit grid. And the more close you can get to that, the higher the digit, so you can go from like a 2-digit grid. So it's in section 1 and section 2. So it's in this big section. Then you get a 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And the larger the grid, the more precise and pinpoint at, like a laser designator.
And what is it? Writing up? Is it writing up and all that stuff? How do you guys
Yeah.
read those digits? Yep.
Yeah. Oh, it's been so many long. I mean, it's been so fucking long.
I'm air wing, so I'm just trying to fucking.
Well, I mean, it's funny because like
like
Latin, when I moved into infantry, I was already a sergeant. I picked up sergeant in 3 years. So, I was in infantry for 6 months, just graduated because I had to go back through SOI as a sergeant. And I just graduated SOI about 2 months ago.
SOI, School of Infantry.
Yep. I'm sorry. Yep.
It's
School
all
of
right.
Infantry. And then I ended up getting selected for staff. So I was like in 0341 for 6 months before I got the designator 0369, which is infantry platoon sergeant, which at that point you're supposed to be proficient
you're
in every weapon
God.
system.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm like, whoa, I'm a boot. Like, we got some Lance Corporals that had some combat deployments as 03s that I need their advice. So it was a nice, I tell you though, it was a really nice change. You know what I mean? Like it was nice to be able to step back and really and truly have a company and a platoon with voices being heard and democracy, basically.
Yeah, I think you would definitely be a great person on there just for the humility on it too. And then you're building that relationship as a staff sergeant that's trying to learn as much as they can. You know what I mean? I was the same way. I was put in a position as a staff sergeant new to skids, which is Cobras and Hueys. We go to, as an ordnance when we go to different platforms. So you can imagine working on an F-18 jet. Then you have to go to a attack helicopter squadron, which you guys probably knew very well. Cobras and Hueys,
Right.
Those are your fucking shit. You guys are in trouble. Those guys come in, they're your guardian angels, man. And they come down and rain that hellfire. That's kind of what the ordnance guys do. But you have totally different skill sets, you know what I mean? But
Absolutely.
you still have the entire Marine Corps mindset, you know what I mean? But so yeah, so you deployed a few times, did some stuff, and then you came back to the reserves. And then you got out. So let's talk about the transition. Because I think the really cool thing that I want to know more about is some of the stories of like, as a police officer, serving then, some of the skills that you kind of took out. But also like, I have to ask you first of all, man, like, what's your favorite cop movie? Like undercover cop movie or cop movie?
Oh,
I'm going to ask you the same thing, Andrew. And we'll see. Yeah. I don't know if you guys seen that, but I sent some Facebook. Did you look at the Facebook message I sent you? Andrew?
Oh,
yeah, that was hilarious.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a RoboCop and he's shooting dicks off of everybody. But it shows dicks. And
it shows dicks. Just massive
disgusting.
amounts of shot off dicks
Disgusting.
everywhere.
Yeah, he's just shooting.
That's awesome.
I'll send it to
That's
you. That's
awesome. I have to see that.
It's really cheesy and campy. They completely I thought it was legit like a deleted scene from the movie. It's just a remake of the movie. Scene 27, I think is what it was called.
Yeah, Scene 27. 100% the listeners and viewers or whatever, they probably know exactly what the hell I'm talking about right now because
I think have you seen that one clip where that they did the guy off Breaking Bad, the crazy Hispanic cartel leader, and
Oh
they
man,
mashed it up with Thanos at the
yeah,
end
he's like,
game. Oh
he's
my
like,
gosh. He grabs the Infinity Stones and he's snoring them. Dude, it's
he kicks like a mule.
No, what you need?
So Andrew, what's your favorite movie for real? Undercover
Favorite cop movie.
Cop
Favorite
movie.
Rush Hour.
Ooh,
The
Rush
original.
Hour? That's
Okay.
a cop,
Okay.
That's a cop movie?
Yeah, it's a buddy cop
Yeah,
movie.
they're cop.
Buddy
Yeah,
cop.
Jackie Chan's a badass in that one.
That's
It's
true.
a
That's
buddy
true.
cop movie, man.
Yeah.
I think he only got 4 concussions in that filming instead of his normal 12.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I'd have to think about that. I wasn't ready to answer that question. I think Rush Hour, man. Probably the cop movie I watched the most in my whole life.
Yeah. What about you, Matthew? What you got?
I-
You go by
the
Matt or
one-
Matthew? I'll
It's
say
whatever,
Matt.
man.
I think it sounds like your parents or something calling you Matthew, huh?
Yes, there's only one person that calls me by my government name, and that's my brother, and that's it.
Okay.
And it's just weird. Like I can't call him by his. Everybody calls him Chris, and I have to call him Christopher. I can't call him.
I'll call you Matt since you put it on there. So I was gonna call you Fat Boy, but people wouldn't. They'd be like, "Why is he being a dick?"
Oh, he's calling him fat. Stop
He's
it.
fat shaming.
Oh,
YouTube would get
fat
they get
shaming.
pissed off real quick.
Ooh, they're not gonna get a lot of sympathy. People like, don't let him talk bad about you, Matt.
Yeah.
You're not fat. You're just husky.
I'll take it.
right,
I
what's
would say, like
last one?
Above the Law.
Mm.
Above
Steven
the
Seagal?
Law has. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Not above the law. Shit, it's the one with Charlie Sheen when he goes undercover in the motorcycle gangs.
Outlaw or something.
Yeah, it's something law.
That's an old one.
Oh yeah.
I know I've seen it. That's like Beverly Hills Cop time frame.
He said Steven Seagal.
No.
Well, Above the Law, Steven Seagal.
Man, so funny
fucks
story.
people
Funny
up.
story. I got a funny Steven Seagal story. So when I was 19 years old, I worked at Blockbuster Video, and the store manager was like super strict, super by the book. Everything had to be like they would come out with these little cards like every week, and they would tell you how you had to rearrange the movies because they had to be up a certain way. And then that store manager went out on maternity leave, and they sent some like college student that was like 23 years old, 24 years old to come run the store while she was gone. And he was like rearranging everything.
He's
And
putting
he-
the
this-
Pirates movie. That's not
this-
Pirates of the Caribbean.
this-
It was like that
yeah,
soft porn.
yeah.
And the kids.
that one was on the wall. I remember that one. I can't remember what it was called, but I remember seeing it. It was
It's
like,
fucking
it was like-
Pirates. Pirates.
yeah, it was
it's called.
it legit. The cover looked like Pirates of the Caribbean, but it was like
100%.
That's fucking
I remember
awesome.
that one, and they had that at Blockbuster. That's how I knew it existed.
So what
But
happened?
no,
with Steven
this guy
Seagal?
was a huge Steven Seagal fan, and he created an entire section in the middle of the store. He called it the Wall of Seagal.
The Wall of Seagal.
I
The
can't
Wall
make
of
this up.
Seagal.
It was nothing but Steven Seagal. movies.
Under Siege.
Yes.
Hard to Kill. Is it Hard to Kill? Above the
Yeah,
Law was
hard
one.
target, hard to kill.
Hard Target was
I think he
was Van
ordered
Damme, right?
this
Hard Target.
Seagal movie
Or
because he
maybe
was
both of
promoting.
them had it. I don't know.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Dude, Seagal was a bad dude back then, bro.
Have you
Like,
seen
when
him in his newest movies? Bro, he can't move. He can't flip nobody. He
You don't
can't
have to.
Judy
He's
chop.
just smacking. He's just smacking people, man.
He doesn't do anything. He
But
can't
he used to
move.
wear the tightest jeans, like when you seen him in his old ones, man. The tight jeans, the one where he goes into a coma, then he does a bunch of acupuncture and all that shit, and then he comes back and he's like this badass. He's like a cripple, and he's like trying to get himself out of the hospital and stuff, and he's like using like a broom handle and touching.
Oh, I have seen that one.
That was a good one, man. Like he was.
He just hasn't been the same since he got kicked off the police force, man.
With his X-ray magnified yellow tinted glasses.
Yeah, he's
He was
You
on
never know what comes
the
up.
Jefferson Parish Police Department in Louisiana. A lot of people don't know this, but for the last 25 years, I've been a police officer. with
Joe
Jefferson
Rogan
Parish.
said he just had him on. He was saying that he's
Oh, he
some
was
kind
on
of
there?
guru. No, he didn't have Steven Seagal, but somebody else was talking about him that they made him an honorary guru. Like he's a legit shaman guru, fucking mythical creature, man. Like some people are like born, I don't know, man, wise souls or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's like a chameleon. He just blends in with whatever he's into. And
yeah, it's whatever. As long as he has those sunglasses, he can do whatever he wants.
Hell
Nothing
yeah.
can ever take those away from him.
I like the old Axel Foley, the old, Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh, those are good ones.
Those one were good. And then what was the movie he was with? 48 Hours.
Yeah. With Nick Nolte.
Yep.
Axel
Nick Nolte.
Foley, that was
Roxanne,
Eddie Murphy, right?
you don't need to put on
Oh
a
yeah, it was
red
It was Eddie Murphy. Was
Roxanne.
Yeah, Beverly Hills Cop was Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy?
Axel Foley.
Yeah.
They made a bunch of those. Yeah,
Actually,
he was
that
scary.
might be my favorite cop movie. Now I think I watched more Beverly Hills Cop than probably Rush Hour.
So that was like the
Growing up.
beginning, and then
That's like
RoboCop was big.
I used to watch that around Christmas time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so here's a question for you: Die Hard, Christmas movie or not?
That's a Christmas movie all day.
Okay, me too.
That's a Christmas movie
I'd
because
say so.
yeah, you got all these. I mean, so's National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation,
Oh,
like all that stuff.
absolutely.
You know what I mean. And then the Christmas Story. So there's certain things, but
Elf.
when the kids go to bed, you want to watch Die Hard. You know what I mean? That's it.
Absolutely.
That's it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because America, and if you're not an American, fuck you. No, I'm just kidding.
But dude, there's like a big debate. Like we want to do like a Christmas movie showing one year with MVP, and I picked my Christmas movie to be Damn Die Hard. And he's like, "That's not a Christmas movie," and I was like, "Yeah, it is." And there was like a big debate. I mean, people's feelings got hurt, some bones were broken. I mean, there was some serious fighting about it.
That's one of my most. Die Hard is one of the movies I remember. Visiting my grandma in Florida and stuff like that. I had my shitty sweatpants on, and she'd pay me $1 to rub lotions on her feet and shit like that. It was weird, but I remember they threw the little hockey puck bombs.
Yeah.
And we used to get the ding dongs, the Hostess ding dong type things, and I always was like, I would pretend those are like the hockey puck bombs. You know what I mean? But is that a butt? Okay, good.
That is my dog.
Asshole. I thought that was an asshole for a second. I was like, oh man.
When I don't give him attention, he jumps up here on my desk to make me give him attention.
But Die Hard, I think, it was such an iconic movie for me. Every time I go to a hotel, I take my shoes off and I roll my toes. And
roll your toes in the carpet.
And I walk on my toes rolled, and it just makes my day so much better. You know?
That was in a good days too, when you can just throw on a shoulder rig and carry on a plane and say, "Relax, I'm a cop." Oh, it's okay.
See, I don't know what that's like. So, I mean, that's a good transition right into it. So, okay, so you got the undercover stuff. So you went out, you got out of the Marine Corps. You worked about 5 years as a patrol officer, right, or a sheriff in Baton Rouge. You said, or were you somewhere?
Yeah, I did 4 years with Iberville, the sheriff's office, where I currently live now, and then 4 years with Baton Rouge PD, and then I had the offer to come back and work in narcotics and start my undercover career. So I came back to Iberville and took it from there.
So you went from like hardcore Marine Corps, high and tights, fresh shave to looking like a Jesus.
Actually, it's
motorcycle
funny story
badass.
My first year and a half working undercover, I was also still in the reserves as a company gunny. So I still had to have my high and tight, still was shaved, still, the whole 9 yards. And I would, do my reserve requirements. And, being a company gunny on the reserve sides, it takes up a lot of your time. It's not just 1 week in a month, 2 weeks out of the year. It's an everyday thing, 197 Marines on the TO, and, you got it. It's a daily thing. So there'd be a lot of times that I would sit there and be riding around looking to buy dope, and I'd be on a conference call with my battalion about our training evolution coming up this coming weekend, and have to hang up on them, go buy dope, and then try to get back on the conference call real quick. So it was a challenge, and it especially not being able to.
Dad, so when you get on bro,
Okay.
can you check
I got
You're good.
I got you, bro. It's a free thing. We'll go and play.
Hell yeah.
Okay, Bubba. Thank you.
There's a righteous dad right there.
This is the Righteous Dad
This is
podcast.
the righteous-
Well,
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
got-
want him to get on camera. I'm still,
yeah, yeah,
paranoid about the camera. That's why I put my arm up. But because they
Punch
normally
him
like
in the
they're in our
chest.
chat, like they know Doc's voice. They know half the people I talk to now, and so they're just used to running over. But I'm still in that paranoid mindset of
You're like,
like
I was about to go buy some dope, and my kid comes up.
no, I can't wait for him to go to school. My daddy buys dope. He used to do it all the time.
Oh, your daddy's badass. Check this out.
My
He's
dad
on
buys
YouTube
dope,
right
bro.
now. Look at this shit. You talking about?
So I'm curious, how did you end up in Louisiana?
My ex-wife.
Okay.
Their mom. She's from a town right close to where I live at. And once I got off active, I moved down here with her, and we split up about 4 years ago, I think. But we have a really great relationship now. The kids, I have 3 kids. I have my twin sons and my daughter. She's a freshman this year, so I mean, it's life is going, and I have a great relationship with my kids, and it's because me and my ex, we're not into drama, not into fighting, not into anything else. It's about her and I are done, and we know that, but we still love each other because that's the mother of my kids, and I'm the father of her kids.
100%.
So
100%.
it's this
Doing the right thing, man.
absolutely. I am very proud about that because it's them. And it's taken 100, my jobs and Marine Corps and guns, you can attest to this. And Andrew too, with your business side of it as well. I mean, you start putting work before kids and family, and that's a slippery slope, and you can justify it very easily. But ultimately it's not fucking right at all.
Yeah, 100%, man. And no, I can relate. I was just curious because I'm actually you're in my home state. I'm from Louisiana.
Oh, no shit. Okay.
Yeah, I'm from
Okay.
I'm from St. Tammany Parish, which is
Oh, I did.
about an hour away from where you're at, I think. And
Yeah.
yeah, I used to date. I'm looking at the map because I thought Iberville. I was like, Iberville's right south of Baton Rouge, I think. And I looked it up on the map, and you're not far from Denham Springs. I used to date a girl that lived in Denham Springs. It was like a 45-minute ride just to go see this girl I was crushing on. But
Yeah,
like
I used to buy dope from or up in Tangible Hope Parish or St.
Tangipahoa.
Tammany. Because it
St.
was a
Tammany.
tri-state parish. They had Tangi, St. Tammany, and then another parish, and it was like a task force that they merged for it.
So
Up there in St. Tammany.
anybody not from Louisiana, a parish is equivalent to a county anywhere else. We call them parishes in Louisiana because of the Spanish heritage, as they called it, the Florida parishes. So that Louisiana was a Spanish colony, it was a French colony. They went back and forth a couple times, and then America bought the Louisiana Purchase eventually. But the parish thing stuck. So we don't have counties in Louisiana. We have parishes. But yeah, now, dude, I have a very similar, like eerily similar story to you. I moved to Virginia from Louisiana because that's where my baby mama is from, my children's mother. We didn't last. I kind of knew we weren't gonna last, but we had a family. I didn't want to raise them we were living in the New Orleans area at the time.
Okay. Yeah.
And I didn't like the school system. But she's from here in Virginia, and the school system up here is amazing. And the school system, the public school system here is equivalent to like having kids in private school down there. Love my home state, but they're not ranked in the top.
No,
10,
I think we're
top 10
third
in
or
education.
third or fourth lowest.
Yeah, it's like they're like 40 something. I think it was 41 or 42 at the time when I was growing up, and now they're probably even closer to 50 in ranking in education. But wanted to give my kids a good chance, so I moved my family to Virginia just solely with the sole purpose of giving my kids a good chance. I haven't regretted it a day. Not once
awesome.
have I ever regretted it. I love it here. My kids love it here. They're flourishing. My daughter, my oldest daughter, just turned 11 yesterday, and she's in a gifted program. And I mean, the public school system here, where we're at in Virginia, is amazing. And but yeah, man, I wouldn't trade it. I'm not leaving. I'm not gonna leave my kids. I'm here. I'm a father first. You know what I'm saying? And all my career decisions revolve around my children. I'm gonna stay close to them. So it
Exactly.
sounds like me and you think very very similar, very much alike.
Absolutely. And that's the thing is I've almost lived here in Louisiana longer than I lived in Kentucky, where I'm originally from, and
It's
my
crazy how time
kids are
flies.
here. Oh, I'm telling you, man. I mean, it's insane. But
I
my
moved.
kids are here, so I'm rooted here. I go where
Yeah,
my kids are. And
yeah. I was just thinking about that earlier, man. I moved here December 31st, 2012, and and it's been. I mean, it's almost 10 years, man. That is
yeah,
crazy. It's
it's
crazy that time
nuts.
flies, But I'm 35 now, so a third of my life has been in Virginia. It's just time
It's nuts,
flies,
man.
man. You know.
It's yeah.
So in Virginia is pretty cool. I got to actually work with the DEA office over there. Did some PME stuff with them. Showed them Drury's Bluff and did like a historical, like a tour over there
Mhm.
for the whole DEA office. So it was kind of cool. I got this plaque, got a big plaque from the DEA office, which was awesome. But it was funny because one of the Marines there, he got out. I think he did like 5 or 6 years or something like that. Got out and then went into became an agent for the drug enforcement agency, right?
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, he was telling me, we did the little tour stuff, and he's like, yeah, I gotta try to come up with like $4,000 more. I gotta buy 12,000 worth of dope, and we're gonna send it up, and it's gonna get busted and all this. And I was like, I always thought that, for the detectives and the narcotics teams and stuff, that they had like unlimited sources of money and things like that. And it doesn't seem like that's the case, right? So like you're talking about, hey, I was trying to buy some dope up here because you're trying to, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but you're trying to get the lower guys and flip them, right? So you
Mhm.
get them, and then you get them to bring you up higher and higher, right? So
Right.
when you're looking at like the movie, we think about that stuff as like Training Day.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So you're talking about being a reservist. You have the high and tight. You look like fucking the law, right? You got
Right. Right.
shave and stuff like that. And then how hard was that in comparison? Because right now, and plus your attitude when I met you over in Austin, like anything, you could tell like we've been around the street cred, you know how people act, and you can kind of see, you know what I mean? Like, hey, this guy's a little bitch. He's probably, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
He's just a little bitch, or he never had to struggle with anything. And that's nothing wrong with growing up in that way and being
No.
good, and you know what I
No, it's
mean?
just how
But you
you
could
grew up.
tell
Yeah.
100%, right? So how was that like in the beginning of still being in the military? I mean, did the reservist, I mean, they knew you were an undercover narcotics agent, right? I
Yeah.
mean, they knew what was going on. So like, was there anything you had to do? I mean, I don't know how deep cover were you back then, or was it more
It
flipping
was every
people?
day. It was I did long-term investigation, so I would go into a parish, I would once I did loan for about a year and a half, and then I got a partner that me and him are still very close to this day. He's still in law enforcement. He's not doing this work anymore. But he and I worked together hand in hand. But it was 3 years every day, but we would go to different parishes, so I would go to mine. I went Iberville, West Baton Rouge, Tangipahoa, St. Tammany, EBR, Houston, Texas, DEA, ATF, Point Capee, Assumption, Ascension, Reserve, St. John Parish. So I mean, like once you start getting a name as an undercover officer, they pimp you out, and to me,
Because they need a fresh
being
face,
well, they needed a fresh face,
right?
and
To
to
all
be
these
honest,
different places,
it's being a UC, people, a lot of people, um, they want to do UC work because they see it on TV. They
You
see
see
that it's
undercover.
yeah, undercover
Yeah,
work.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, they see what's on TV, and they see what that portrays and everything else, and they think it's cool, and they want the accolade of being able
Sexy
to
and
say, I
yeah,
was,
yep.
yeah, it's sexy. It's like the spec ops type thing.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So but it's not, if you become a UC, like I tried to train a couple UCs, and it took them about 2 weeks, and he's like, hey dude, it ain't for me,
Yeah, it's like
and,
intel.
and
It's like
it's,
counter intel or intel,
it
and
is
you
because
go
you
there with no gun and shit in the Marine Corps. Because I was thinking
exactly
about doing that. I'm like, I'm not trying to flip people and be counter intel, and you're not going to give me a fucking 9 mil, and you want me,
right.
fuck that. Like,
Well, that's the thing. I didn't like flipping people right off the bat because that ruins my cover for a
mm,
while in that area. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
so
for
I
them to
like doing
introduce
long
you,
term.
yeah,
Exactly. So I
to
would go
introduce you
into
to
a
other people,
parish.
right? Yeah.
Exactly. So, you know,
Yeah.
once I would buy from one, they would just I'd work my way up until I could
Yeah.
get to where, you know, as close as I can
And
and
with your
then
personality, you
move
got a
off.
funny personality. People probably liked you and shit like
But,
that
you know,
too.
like
You're not
honestly,
using.
like the biggest thing with UC work, you know, you're talking about like with the high and tight and shave and everything is reading people, knowing how to read people. And the number one thing about buying dope is money. Why are you selling dope? So you can become rich.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I, you know, what's a dope head or a fiend always want? Money so they can get dope, right?
Mm-hmm.
So money talks. And if you
Yeah.
can make somebody comfortable, and it's about reading that person, right? And honestly, it's a professional way to get what you want. It's a professional manipulation. Well, it's not manipulation because you're not doing something against their will. You know, out of all the cases I did, it was 387 total, and it was never something like, you know, if somebody said, hey, you know, I'm not sure if I want to sell to you. All right, bro, that's on you. You know, I'd walk away. Why am I going to interrupt my, you know, or ruin my reputation and word over him? If you don't want to sell it to me today, cool. He'll sell it to somebody else and he'll eventually get arrested.
So I got to ask, you never said like, man, come on, man. I got these cheeseburgers.
I got some
I'll
fries
suck
that'll
your
make you
dick. I'll
cry.
suck
Suck
your
your,
dick.
suck your dick, man.
You know what I mean?
Suck your dick, man.
No, but I mean,
This
like,
ain't the first time, Joe Rogan, I've had
in
penis.
in reality, you know, you got to be yourself, right? So I can't go into a predominantly, you know, African American neighborhood and try to be
Right.
of that culture. It
Right.
doesn't fit. I didn't grow up like that. That's not me. They can see, they can spot a fake. And the first thing is like, all right, white dude in this neighborhood acting like he's a thug. Fucking dude's a cop.
That's suspect right off the bat.
Yeah, it's
I
like
mean, that's like,
it's
who
like
the fuck-
Die Hard. Is
who
it a
does
Christmas
that?
movie or not?
You're
You know what I mean?
you're like a real life Richie Roberts, man. Like that Russell Crowe's character from American Gangster. I mean, that's pretty legit. You know,
I like to think
I
of
like
Sons
it.
of Anarchy is something crazy. You know what I mean? Like I could
but he's
see
got
them
the
two
look.
biker
Yeah,
gangs.
definitely.
Hell
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, once I did get out of the Marine Corps and I grew everything out, it just stuck. I couldn't get off of it. Then
Probably helped you, huh?
it did. Well, I tell you what, the biggest thing it did for me, it gave me personal confidence. It gave me an ease of mind that at least I have long hair. At least I can look like shit. Already dressed
Right.
like shit, smelt like shit. Now I can look like shit. So it's the whole package. I'm not missing one. You know, like another thing too that, you know, I've gotten called out before is my teeth.
Too nice.
I got nice teeth. And the dude told me, he's like, I ain't fucking selling to you. You got nice teeth.
Yeah, you don't
And
look
that's
like
smart.
a
I
method.
mean, like, you know, like I was like, all right, cool.
100%. Yep, 100%.
Still got it. Man, I still
know what I
got him. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's a chess game, you know, because I know the question or I prep myself. You know, the biggest thing, you know, about, or, you know, going back to a lot of people, you know, that when they fall out of UC work and they can't do it, it's because they don't have a passion. They're seeking it for wrong reasons. Undercover work is not something that you want to half-ass into it. Because if you half-ass into it and you just want it for the accolades, you're going to get yourself killed. You know, you're going into the biggest adjustment for me was my whole time in the Marine Corps and law enforcement. It's running to the fight. I hear shots, I'm running to it. This time I'm going out by myself.
Yep.
And if I get the danger or the threat, I need to run away so my cover team can come in with the man and the firepower. Then I can come back in. So that was, you know, and that and arrogance, you know, it got me in my, you know, a bad situation. And, you know, you just have to learn and grow from it and, you know, just learn from your mistakes and make sure you don't repeat them again.
So now this wasn't, I mean, so you did some obviously with drugs, but I mean, once you get into the drug aspect of it, and you start making connections and you build friendships with these people, like, I mean, you must feel like some kind of sympathy and senses where you hear people's stories, because you kind of see it. You know, cops see some shitty situations, right? And you're serving to protect and clean the streets, but at the same time, you do see some shitty situations. You see good people, and even with the drug dealers, you know, they're smart, right? Some of them are real smart. They're business people as well. Like they're trying, and this is maybe the only thing that they know.
Right.
Did it ever get kind of weird where it was almost like, have you ever seen the movie Bulletproof with Adam Sandler?
Yeah.
And it's like Disneyland, you know, and they're all buddies and shit. And he puts them away. But I mean, They were boys.
Yeah, I mean,
he's
no,
kind of like, what the fuck,
absolutely.
you know, like,
There was a few times I go into an area, I knew exactly where to go, who to pick up on the corner, because he could introduce me and he vouched for me. He was super nice. We were chill. We got along. You know, it's like, you know, there's
it's
another
tough.
time I end up, the guy had, he was mentally handicapped. I didn't know he was mentally handicapped. He had, uh, what is it? I can't remember what he had, but anyways, he was mentally handicapped, and I bought dope from him. I didn't
Mhm.
know he was until after the cases were done, and then I started thinking, I was
So
like,
he was
dang,
like
you
in
know,
a
of course,
wheelchair and
no, he
shit,
wasn't
like
in a
cerebral
wheelchair. He
palsy
was
or something.
no. You know, he was. If you talk to him for more than 5 minutes, like how I did, you could tell he was
Yeah.
slow. You
Yeah,
know,
I
he was
thought.
very slow, right? And you know, he was a crack baby, is what he was.
Mm.
His mother was an addict and so forth. So, yeah, you know, like I don't feel bad. I felt bad. I had sympathy and empathy for that kid because you know he's
Yeah,
has
product of
mental
his
issues,
environment, right?
and the only reason
Yeah.
why he's selling dope for these guys is because they entice him with, you know, being their friend for a minute, and then he'll make runs for him. So they're just using him, knowing that he
Mhm.
can sell. He's, you know, the cops know him in the local areas being mentally handicapped, so they're not gonna
Fuck with him
jump
as
on
much,
him,
right? Yep.
right? You know, but you know, and then whenever we find out he's muling for people and we do jump on him, it's this right here. Or you're beating up a mentally challenged person. Like, no, it's not the full picture. You got to look
Yeah,
at the
right.
totality of the situation.
Yeah, that's what's kind of crazy today. Now, I was going to ask you, but I was going to ask you later on. You know, the situation with everything with the police and with that power of that camera, right? I mean, that must be a lot, right? So a lot of people are using that as a weapon against police officers, and you know what I mean. And now I
Mhm.
feel like police officers are told to not pull people over, you know, in fear of getting in trouble or
Then
being
they
on the
shouldn't be
news.
cops.
You know what I
If you
mean?
can't do your job over fear of being recorded, then you shouldn't be a
Right.
cop. Plain and simple. 12 years in law enforcement, I never once had an inclination like I don't. If somebody's recording me, I'm going to jail. Because if that's the train of thought that you have as a police
Mhm.
officer, then it's already too far. You're a dirty cop.
Well, but I also heard they're
You
not pressing charges under $1,000 of shoplifting and just shit like that. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
I
In
mean
certain
the
places, it's
laws.
just getting weird, man. Like,
Yeah, I mean like the laws. It's you know, like drugs, they're lessening drug laws, they're lessening you know what felony raw, you know, felony theft is, they're
yeah,
lessening laws on basically not only just lessening them but also giving them, you know, plea out deals and putting in the fine print of those laws that are updated, that now they can plea out to this and make it from a felony to a misdemeanor and all these different plays on the system. So you know, you get somebody like, how is this guy still out here walking on, you know, look at his rap sheet. Well, look,
hmm
why? Because it's a politically motivated position in a district attorney's position. So
yeah,
they want the conviction rate. What gets conviction rates? Plea deals. And
hmm
it's a vicious cycle. I mean, it's just shooting them out.
yeah. When you have, you know, yeah, when they're going after them and they're trying to win no matter what, right? So district attorneys, whatever, going after the win, regardless if they're innocent or not. Just like who can, and what you got the defendant or the what do they give you a freaking defendant attorney or whatever? What do they call
Yeah,
it?
the public
Public
defenders. Yeah.
defender. I mean, you could
It's
get
public plea deals, is what it is.
right. You know what I
That's,
mean? Yeah, and it's
I
just
mean,
kind of
the public defenders, they
it's
don't,
farming the jail
that's all
system
it
in a
is.
sense. Yeah.
They're good lawyers. They just don't have the time because they have such an enormous
Mhm.
caseload to really and truly jump into a case like they should.
Yeah, I have a
And
cousin
so
that's
it
a
just
prosecutor,
becomes,
so I'm wondering how
yeah, I
I
mean,
have
it's
to
just,
talk to him and see what he thinks about everything. So you did the drugs and then you got into some other stuff too, right? So
yeah, I did a murder for hire case on a guy. And then I got into him by buying drugs. And then I got him to modify some weapons for him. He bought some guns from him. And then throughout the course of the investigation, it was about a month deal just on him. And actually, the funny story is, I wasn't even in narcotics whenever I did this case. I was still working on the road,
mm,
but they knew that I wanted to do UC work, so I'd come do work for them. So I was working patrolling in the area, and I went to that dude's house that morning and unlocked his brother's car in full uniform, and then came back out at 8 o'clock that night in my other street clothes and started buying dope from me.
holy shit.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't the smart, like I
That's
won't say
that's
wasn't
where
the
the
smartest.
cockiness comes in. Like
Yes.
he won't notice.
So and look,
I'll
man,
wear
like
I'll wear lipstick this time.
honestly, like it started
Put
getting to the
glasses
point.
on.
Like my buddies were like, "Hey,
He's
ask
like
for
he's like
ask
this.
for lewds." I was like, lewds? Like lewds hadn't been made since the fucking 70s. Like because we just got done watching Wolf of Wall Street. So they wanted me to go out there. So I started asking like these drug dealers, like, hey man, you can get some lewds. You're like, what the fuck are lewds? So that's the arrogance level, which was bad, especially in undercover work, because in my mind at that time, I was like, it doesn't matter what I look like, what happens, what says, I can talk my way out of it. I was so confident behind my gift of gab and talking to people and getting to know them and really.
Well, the Marine Corps
And
helps for sure, man, because
oh,
you're meeting
absolutely,
all kinds of people from all kinds of walks of life, and
absolutely,
you've got to blend in, and I think you gotta get those things, common interests, and those things rather than the things that are different, right? You have
well,
to kind
yeah.
of
I mean, the cool thing
capitalize
about the
on those
Marine
things.
Corps is you can pull stories from your buddies.
Right.
You know, that my whole persona as a UC officer was not me, right?
Storytelling. Yeah.
So if and that's in my personal life, that's one thing that I make it a very big important part of me is I'll never tell anybody I've done something I haven't done, or brag to
Right.
brag
Yep.
about it or anything else. But in my UC life, that was I'll take your stories that you've told me, Gunny. I'll insert myself or insert my buddy and
Mhm.
just regurgitate it because I know it's a funny story.
There's
What
truth to the
happened?
lie.
There's truth
But
to the lie,
you're
right?
playing a role, right?
I'm
Truth
playing
to
a
the
role.
lie. Yep.
It's a
acting.
role,
Yep.
exactly. And just adapting to it. Like, all right, well, this guy, he's a big alpha. My dog just started the vacuum. He got scared.
Oh, I thought you said your dog started vacuuming.
Oh, I got an
I was like,
automatic. It's
bro,
like a
that pit bull
sensor
is
vac.
badass. I met him. Hell yeah. Oh, Frankie, right?
Oh, Frankie,
Oh
that
man.
dog there. But yeah, I mean, like you see, it's. But yeah, getting back to the cocky thing, and you start, because of your arrogance and that false bravado, you start throwing down and knocking down those red flags in a case. It's really bad, especially in UC world, because I'm taking myself completely out of my comfort level and already putting it in a bad situation. So red flags in those situations need to be like, okay, get the fuck out flags. You know what I mean? And I tell you, I got humbled very, very, very quickly. One night. So and that, I don't mind telling that story. I end up it's nothing like too bad. I smoke crack. It's either that or die.
Yep.
So I was like, fucking right, give me that glass pipe. I'm smoking crack tonight.
Mhm.
So
I was
That
just
was
about
actually
to.
that was,
I was
that was
just about
actually
to
my
ask.
next question.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, because I've been waiting for like my little in to get that question in there. But no, like I can say from experience, because I grew up on the other side of
Mhm.
what you guys. I did drugs. I hung out with people that did drugs when I was a teenager. I was all in that life. I was more of a pothead, but being a pothead kind of gets you
You
in the
sucked dick for
room.
marijuana?
Boo this man.
Boo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I never really got into the hard stuff, but I was always like just all about the reefer, right? And
Mhm.
the smoke, being a pothead gets you in the room with a lot of like. There's been a lot of times where I was in a room and I was like, somebody would start smoking crack, and I was like, I can't be here. What am I
Yeah.
doing? I'm fucked. Like, how did I end up in this position? And there was one time that I could tell you, like, it was a friend of a friend, and I at this guy's house. I don't know this guy. I've never met this guy, but my friend vouched for this guy. He's older. We're like 16 or 17. This guy's like 24. He's got his own apartment. So like right off the bat, that's cool as shit, right?
Right.
Hands me a beer. I'm drinking a tall boy, and he passed me the pipe. We're smoking the weed, and I hit it a couple. I hit it a couple times, and then he
It made me
passed it to
laugh,
me.
bro.
I'm like, no man, I'm good. And he's like,
Fucking weed, man.
no, he's like, hey, I said, I'm good, man. And he's like, no, hit it. I was like, dude, no, I'm good, man. Like, no, he's like, fucking hit it right now. And I was like, okay. I said I said it was good. And I mean, he like It was a really uncomfortable
He
situation.
went Scarface,
Right.
thinking he
Yeah,
went
like
a little
he
weird.
was like,
Yeah, I
you
could
come
see
into
that.
my house and you are disrespecting my. I mean, that's so you just so disrespectful. You brought this guy in here and he's disrespecting me. And now like it got really, the environment got really weird really quick because I'm this kid that this guy doesn't know,
Right.
and I'm turning away his pot, and the guy knows what he put in it because, oh my God, I mean, but yeah, I can just imagine the scenarios that you get in as a undercover police officer.
I've been into some
when you're
shady shit. I had a situation where I was at a person's house, and I ain't gonna too much history, but he's a big time person, right? And we weren't there for anything but marijuana, but he had the best marijuana and he would sell it cheap because he was selling other things, right? But he had like the K-band radios and all that kind of stuff, so he could hear traffic. And they were talking about his apartment and people going into his apartment and shit like that. And he had a lot of his drugs and like pledge bottles, like the fake pledge
Mhm.
bottles and all the different things. And you're talking about big King Kong foilies, you know what I mean, and all kinds of shit and light bulbs and other things, meth and different things. I mean, big bags coming out, you know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
there's people and there's people like watching and doing things. And I mean, he wasn't all like crazy, but I mean, yeah, when you start getting yourself in those situations, it's not good, man. You get up to a position. I'm sure they're going to be, some of those people are going to be a little bit paranoid.
Oh yeah,
You
absolutely.
know what I mean?
You know,
Especially if you're new and they don't know you, and
exactly.
you do one thing that you look like a bitch, or like you might be wearing something wrong, or I mean, it could be anything, right? Your nails are
Right.
fucking too clean. I mean, I
Yeah.
would be looking at, damn, my cuticles. You know what I mean? If you're doing certain things where your cuticles are cut,
Oh man, I'd go
and
out
then
there
you're
and stick my
looking all
hand in a,
100%
dirt and
dirt.
get all
Yeah,
dirt
man.
all up in
Yeah,
it.
I would be
I
doing
had
the
the
same
same
thing. Yep.
clothes I would always wear. I didn't wash for almost 2 years,
Fucking
and the
stupid
first time
hand
I had them.
tattoos and shit. Like I would be doing all kinds of shit, man. Like,
Well, but here's the thing though, is you gotta make sure that, especially if you're doing long term, if you wanna do hand tattoos, all right, cool. What happens if you gotta come back in that area 6
yeah,
months
and they
later?
know you. Yeah,
And
they
they
know
know
you.
you, and
Yep.
they're used to seeing a certain design, and you
Yep.
put it cockeyed one way, like, oh, that's different. What the fuck is that?
And then they
So
start
you
asking
gotta,
questions, right? They start
yeah.
asking questions like,
So you gotta be able to
yep,
back up
yep,
what you're telling me. Like, dude, like, like whenever I had my short hair and everything, they'd see my tattoo. And I hated saying it. It took me a while to really get the story down pat, but I would just tell like they was like, oh, what the fuck, using the Marine Corps, or using the military. I
oh
was like,
yeah,
yeah, man, fuck that
yep,
place. That's a ride, like that's why I
yeah,
need my pills. They got me hooked up on fucking pills, and my
yeah,
doctor cut me off, and this is
yep,
so I use those stories, and it's a shitty feeling to use it because that's an actual fucking thing that is going on right now, especially with veterans. And the VA cutting them off from a certain type of pill, or their doctor cutting them off from this. That's a real scenario that I'm using, and those people aren't flinching or batting an eye when I say it. So what that tells me is like how many other fucking vets are telling them that is
100%,
actual true.
yeah,
And that's the sad part when you start really getting into that world, and you start finding veterans, and you start finding like your brothers and your sisters, and you're like, damn dog, you've been strung out on heroin for 15
and then
years
you got to
now, and
flip them, yeah,
and
or
like
whatever, right?
like,
Yeah,
dude, a couple of times, like, they're sitting there trying to sell me dope. I'm like, dude, get away from me. Like,
yeah,
I'm doing you a fucking
stop,
favor. Get away from
yeah,
me. Stop.
yeah, right,
Like, no, I'm good. And they just keep forcing it because all they're doing is I made them feel a little bit comfortable with me, and then they see money, and they see money,
mhm.
and they see money, and they see money. So I mean, it's
Well, what's crazy to me too is when because I got family history and drugs and all that kind of stuff, and I've known I had enough street cred, 16 years old, that I think I could do UC work, knowing the shit I knew at 16. You know what I
mhm,
mean? I actually thought about it for a while, just given the fact, to try to stop shit. You know what I mean? The fight
right.
against drugs. Um, but in the Marine Corps, the same thing can be said. And you spend so much time in the Marine Corps, you can see something off in a uniform. You can see stolen valor pretty easy. You can see and you can ask questions. And if you knew that, right, you were at 2-7 or wherever, what squadron, you could start asking and probing third, fourth questions to see, hey, you're full of shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
how do you
Oh,
how do you
100%. Yes.
how do you deflect some of that shit? I mean, like, Or was it just kind of easy? Like, because as you get more experience with it, like you were talking about utilizing other people's stories in order, so you're kind of learning more and more.
Mhm.
And I mean, are you
It's
just
a very
spending
adaptive environment,
spending the
know?
night at people's houses, crashing at
Right.
their pads? I mean, you got to be. I mean, I guess it's not that crazy, right?
I would imagine. I mean, you try to keep your scope kind of small, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you don't want your story to get too broad because then
It's
you're
too
trying,
much.
You
Yeah.
gotta,
then you're trying to
the
keep up with too
acronym.
many.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
Yeah.
Andrew.
You're
But no, it's the acronym, Gunny. It's KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
Mhm.
And so I would tell stories that I have told. Like if you tell me a funny ass story and I'm with a group of people and I know that's going to be funny to them, they're like, dude, let me tell you a story my buddy told me. All right, his name's Gunny, and then boom, and I'd have you. I wouldn't put myself in that position.
Right.
But if I wanted to take that story for my UC work and I put myself in that position, because then what that's going to do is that's going to draw that person in because like, oh, well, you have firsthand knowledge. It's not your buddy that did it. You did it. And if
Right.
they start asking questions about it, it better be something that I know.
Right.
It better be something I can back up so that I would never sit there and it's like, oh yeah, my uncle took me out welding and I could weld this. And okay,
Well, that's how you
I
catch
gotta,
people in a lie, right?
that's right.
You ask
Because
them
it's a
again,
lot of
or
times
that's not how you told it when you told me.
exactly like, all right, well,
Right.
I got a truck out
What
here.
the
You
fuck?
can,
Yep.
I need a little piece welded on. Come out here and weld it
Yeah,
for me.
right.
Oh, well, I
Yeah.
can't do.
Yeah.
Well, you're fucking lying then.
Yeah.
So if they were using vernacular I didn't know, I'm like, dude, I don't know that fucking shit.
I don't know
I'm
that
not
word.
from this area.
Fucking nerd.
Yeah, like what? Like, I would say it. I was like, I'm a fucking white boy. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's if you just it's you gotta be yourself, but not be yourself. I can't sit there and act like I'm from South Dakota because I know dick about South Dakota.
Well, that's interesting
I
because
can-
I mean, you're kind of who's yourself. And
Well, I
you
mean
know what
that, and
that's where you
that's
got a weird. It's a weird kind of thing to think about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially when you say, "I put this uniform on." Now you're aspiring to be something different, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I think you have to
Well, I
check
imagine
yourself, and
it's
you got
kind
to
of
know.
similar. I imagine it's kind of similar. Like we wear different hats. You're a Marine when you go to work. You're a dad when you get home. You're a husband.
100%. You wear different
you wear
masks.
yeah, different hats. I mean, you're not talking Marine talk with your wife or your kids, but you're not talking kid talk with your Marines. So, or maybe you are. I'm like, you guys are kind of crazy.
No, I mean, I don't, but that life, because it was an everyday thing, and I was still coming home at night, and I was working in the parish I was living in, right? So it bleeds over into your personal life. I can't go out in town. I can't do functions with my family. If we walk into Walmart,
That's a
we
wrong
go
thing.
separate
Oh, you don't have
ways.
kids.
We can't. I have a code word I would tell my ex, and we would know to leave, and this and that, and planning it according. And not only that, but I could be sitting down watching a movie with my kids, and all of a sudden my dope phone goes off. I got to answer it because I have to fill that role, even though I'm playing that role for them on during the daytime. I have to be that role 24/7. So it really starts. It's not just bleeding into your personal life, but what honestly the biggest thing for me was like my high was when I made a deal. I could bullshit somebody so much they would sell me dope, and as soon as that dope would hit my hand and I say appreciate it, man, dap them up and fucking pull out that area, is like a dopamine rush. I mean, it's just a dump. I mean, because it was just incredible. Like I was just able to mind fuck you into doing something that you even told me. I had a guy tell me, he's like, man, you look like a cop that's been around here before. And I said, that's funny. I was like, that's the second person that's told me that. I'm going to get out of speeding tickets in this parish. And he started laughing, disarmed him. It's the simple things that you have to just put, like if you ask me, Matt, and I'm not a cop now, like, Matt, you're a cop? Fuck no, I'm not a fucking cop. Why the fuck would you ask me? Why
are you a cop?
Yeah, are you a cop? Nobody asked that. I mean, like, it's like if I ask you, like, are you a Marine? And you reply back, well, are you a Marine? Nobody, it's a yes or no. No, I'm not a cop. Okay. 90% of the time. So
is that shit true? You have to tell them you're a cop?
Fuck
you're
no.
Undercover. Like, no,
fuck
bitch.
No.
why does everybody believe that shit?
Dude,
are you a cop?
I had a guy
no.
tell me that.
Okay.
He told me, he's like, are you a cop? And you got to tell me because it's the law. I said, man, I'm not a cop. And then like we started talking, and I bought dope from him the next day, and he's like,
Yep, I'm a cop.
no, I told him, I said, look, I'm not a cop. I said, I'd have to tell you if I was one. He goes, you right, bro. You right. I got you, man. I was like, yeah,
You dumbass.
job security.
That's
You tell all your
hilarious.
friends that too.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you talked about walking into Walmart. So statistically, if I'm walking into a Walmart, what's the chances of me walking past an undercover person just not even knowing? It's pretty good.
I mean, honestly, I don't know. I mean, because like undercover work is dying out because the laws on drugs are dying out and getting less and less, and because it's such a violent and hostile environment and such a risk environment that
It's not worth
agencies
it.
aren't.
Yeah.
That's why I got pimped out so much, is because other agencies didn't want to take the responsibility to have one of their officers getting killed in the line of duty. It's much easier on folks if it's an outside cop that they don't have any ties to, right?
Mhm.
So it's dying out because agencies don't want to do, and not to mention, UC work is, it's that you're literally walking that gray line between corruption and right, and the temptations, and if you do UC work too long, it very easily can, I'm not saying all cases, but it can corrupt you because
Mhm.
you're a product, you become a
Right.
product of your environment. You
Mhm.
hang around shitbags, you are a shitbag for long enough where you're going to live a shitbag life, and that was one thing. Like, I got really good at, and telling people what I want them to believe.
Mhm.
I would go to restaurants and make up stories. I was in town for a garbage convention and all this, and I would practice. So I started getting rushes off that, and then that bled into my personal life. That bled into, well, if I can tell this lie to my wife, ex-wife now, and she believes me, and she's been married to me for 13 years, then I could tell fucking Joe Blow, the dope dealer, and he'll believe
Right.
me, and it just kind of snowballed.
That makes me want to switch my favorite movie to Departed.
Oh
Movie
man,
That's a
Departed.
great
you know
movie.
what? Yeah, that is
Beyond the Law
Because
is the other one.
you know what I mean? Yeah, Beyond the Law. So
Yeah.
Departed and stuff like that. Because if you think about it, Matt Wahlberg, Mark
no,
Wahlberg's
Mark
not Matt,
Wahlberg,
Mark
Matt Damon,
Wahlberg's. He's kind
Joe
of like the
Goodman.
bad guy, right? And that's like, growing up, and then he becomes
Yeah.
a cop, and then he's like, now he kind of switches it. You know what I mean?
That was
That was
Leo
fucking
DiCaprio.
Leonardo DiCaprio. Yep.
Leo the Dream Boy.
Mark Wahlberg was like
He was the bad guy.
the sergeant. No, he was the
No, he
sergeant.
was a good guy.
Matt Damon was
Was the
the
bad guy.
bad guy.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, Matt Damon. You're right. My bad. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, Mark
Mark
Wahlberg.
Wahlberg
My
was an
bad.
asshole, but he
My
was
bad, bro.
still on the good side.
He was
Yeah,
a good
Matt
asshole.
Matt
Yeah, he was good.
Damon. Yeah, Matt Damon was. You know what I mean? So he was able to fucking Matt Damon. He's a special dude. Just because old boy bought him some milk and shit back in the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you look
Fucking
like you're flipping
firefighter.
people. So that's going to be one of my next questions. Is like, are there people out there at higher enough levels trying to flip cops being
Oh,
flipped, things
yeah.
like that? Because to me it was like, I met a couple of people at the DEA office, and some of them were fucking sketchy. One of them was like the supervisor, the guy, and he looked like half of my family on my mom's side. You know what I mean? Like his face was, you could tell this motherfucker had a hard life. Like he's done some shit, and he had that look too. You know what I mean? Where he kind of like, he couldn't shut off, like looking at you, trying to figure out who the fuck you are. Right.
Yeah.
The whole time I'm giving this, Corporal Mackey tour at Drew's Bluff about Corporal Mackey, the first Marine to receive the Medal of Honor, you know what I mean, over there at the James River. And so he's just kind of like looking at me weird, man. And he's like, yeah, that's the one guy's, the agent's like, yeah, that's my boss. He had the headquarters was there, which was really cool. But then he's like, yeah, I got to go. I got to flip this guy. And I'm like, you shouldn't be telling me all this shit, man. Like, you know what I mean? So I know some of that should be like secret, but I mean, he's got all this information and how easy it would be to, I mean, I don't know how big drug rings are. I mean, cartels, I mean, is it more low level? We're picking the low level fruit compared to,
I mean, so if I'm doing street level buys, there's always a different, there's people that, do large scale organization and national organizations and stuff like that. Which that is a very in-depth process, and there's very select few that do that. and
that
then
try to
there's
get up to the highest levels of
well that can
Breaking
do it
Bad.
because it's not just the ability, but it's the funds, it's the proper cover. Because if you're trying to buy dope from somebody to get a case on them, and they're worth $500 million, and their complete freedom rest on my testimony, and they're worth that much money, what do you think is going to happen to me,
Yeah.
right?
Not only that,
If
the
you
resources to look up. They're gonna have people that are smart
they're going to
enough to
have
look your
people, right?
shit.
So I mean,
Yeah.
you have to have the right type of intelligence, technology, money,
Mhm.
and more
Yeah.
money to be able to do. So like what I did was street level buys, right? I would do lowest level, and I would try to, if that guy would only, so basically I'd get up with somebody and buy whatever, and then they would take me to somebody the first probably 2, 3, 4 times. They're going to go in the house and go get it for themselves. So then all I got to do is just wait till they short me or they're charging me too much and say, fuck you, I'm going to go to him directly. He's
Yeah.
already seen my face in car a couple of times. He'll feel more
Yeah.
comfortable,
Right.
and then go straight to that guy. And kind of going back to what you said earlier, Andrew, I wanted to comment on it. You were saying that you've been in houses to where all of a sudden they got a big old bag of meth and everything else. Weed is not a gateway drug, but because of it being illegal and being in that environment, it leads to other people. I've sat down with,
It's about getting money. They'll flip money,
so,
and then they
here's
say,
the
"Why are
thing.
we flipping money when I can make more money off of this and I can cut it?"
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, like
well, I
after,
think,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you're 100% accurate on that. I mean, it's. I don't think it's a bad drug. I was just a reefer head when I was
yeah,
a teenager, and because of it being illegal, I would end up in these situations where I was hanging out with people that smoke weed, but they also smoke crack.
yeah.
It's like, or they also deal this. They deal weed, but no, hey man,
Weed
yeah,
is
I got this axe if you want. I'm like, here, you want some Molly?
exactly.
They're like, I'm like, oh, dude, I just really want to get high with some weed with my boys
Right.
and
I mean,
go
you
watch
don't walk into a gas
family.
station and say, change my oil.
Mhm.
No, you go to a place that changes your oil to get your oil changed. So if I want to go to get weed, I go to where it's legal to get marijuana and do it the legal, and that's the only thing I'm going to be exposed to. But because it's still illegal, you get exposed to selling
Mhm.
ecstasy, and like what you saw around. And there's been so many times that are tried and true. I've even talked to dope dealers after we hit a search warrant on them, after I got done UC work and stuff, and they were like, yeah, so I don't make money off weed. I make money off my coke, heroin, meth. But people come to me for their weed, and if they come to me long enough, then I can start talking into getting the stuff I make money off of. So the weed is like a common groundbreaker to get them into the hard shit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Right?
you remember that old game, Drug Dealer?
I
Yeah,
never played it.
Bro, that game was legit. You could buy. It was like you would buy mushrooms, cocaine, different things, because stock prices would change, and you go to different
yeah.
places, and you could get caught up. It was like a very basic game. You know what I mean?
I think now that I think about it, I think I did play that because
It's
yeah,
kind
you
of
said
crazy,
the
but
prices
because
would
it's a
change.
business, so you got to
Yeah,
move things that are selling. In certain places, people would buy at higher prices because of the scarcity, right? So, like, but I got another question for you, Matt. So, Joe Rogan has talked about it too with like psychedelics and different drugs. And if they
Mhm.
legalized, and now that they're legalizing marijuana in places, they're legalizing other things, and with fentanyl and all the things that are happening, if they legalized drugs to a capacity, because now you know where it is. You're not getting it cut with anything else. What do you think that would do for given your experience to the drug game? Like if they started legalizing cocaine, meth, whatever, right? And it was all clean and you know what I mean? Kind of what do you think that would do? Your from your personal experience, or what do you think what would kind of happen to society? Or do you think we'd have a bigger drug problem? Do you think less people would try to do drugs because it wasn't illegal?
I think what would end up happening is the funding where we need the most help on, and the funding to help our children grow. And I know as cliche as that really and truly sounds, but let's think about the public school system and how Andrew, you and I were talking about that earlier. How bad Louisiana is. But what we'll end up doing if we make drugs 100% legal across the board, we're going to start interfering with that type of funding to start accommodating for people that are choosing to and encouraging their addiction. anything that's man-made, I'm completely and totally against, because it is not something that we can naturally digest, naturally absorb, naturally handle. It's same thing with pain pills. Surgeries I've had and everything else. I love pain pills, love them, love them, love them, love them. But I know that if I do 2 refills and do any
You're
more
fucked.
after that, I'm
Yeah.
fucked, because I have an addictive personality. I know my personality, right? So, like, even with my addictive personality, even after that incident where I was forced to smoke crack, I never once woke up a day after that. I was like, oh, I want crack today. It's not, it's because I wasn't in that environment, or I mean, I was in the environment, but I didn't want it. You have to want it. And if the more you're exposed to it, the more you can justify yourself in doing that. So if I'm just going over there buying a fucking 20 bag of weed here and there,
Yeah, but don't you think, since, I mean, people are going to do drugs regardless, right?
they are.
Legally or not, but do you think that takes away from feeding into the prison system, which is another business in itself, right? We can argue that kind of stuff. But
Yeah,
you
I
talk
mean,
about the taxes. If it was like, hey, gave you a clean way of doing it, people only did a little bit of it. I mean, there's documentaries on it. I know there's either one side or the other side. I'm not saying, hey, let's everybody do drugs and do whatever
right,
they're going to do.
right. No,
But
no, no.
at the same time, I think it would be less cutthroat. It would be, you could
I think
tax
it
it.
would be
I know
more
marijuana.
dangerous.
You think so? As far as like
And here's why. If
overdoses
you
and different things.
Yes, and here's why, is because if, let's say, we made everything 100%, in my opinion, which is not based by just my opinion, it's because people will be able to go, I'm gonna go get me a point of heroin. Well, my boy needs some too, but he's broke because he's a junkie.
Yeah, so he's
So I'm
buying.
going to step on the heroin, or I'm going to boost it up so people can start coming to me, or I'm going to start trying to undercut the stores and sell my heroin at a cheaper discount than what they're
Okay,
doing.
so you think there
So
would
the
still
drug
be
game,
there would still be off the
yes,
market
because
shit being
of the
made.
fact, like with marijuana,
Right.
mushrooms, ketamine, stuff that is absolutely natural. And as a matter of fact, Louisiana, Andrew, believe it or not, has 4 legal ketamine bars in Louisiana, where you can go and ketamine is 100% legal as long as a medical doctor provides it and administers the dosage. So they set up 4 bars in Louisiana where you can go in and get a ketamine drip, and you're under evaluation, and then, because it's a natural substance, right? So weed, shrooms, ketamine, all these natural,
Cocaine,
natural.
right?
No, cocaine. To make cocaine, it's not just a coca leaf. You have to add other man-made ingredients to make cocaine. Cocaine is an unnatural substance. Meth, heroin, fentanyl,
So you
all
could
those
chew
are
on the
unnatural.
leaves or something and have somewhat
You
of
can,
the
I
same
mean, you
thing, but
can.
it's not extracting it the
It's
same
not.
way and
Yeah, it's
putting
not
it.
the addictive. It's not the the extreme high that you get from once it's actually cocaine.
It's like a
Right.
CBD version of Coke.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
I think not to interject or redirect,
No,
but
interject.
I think where Brian's question was coming from was from a place of like let's use there's countries in Europe, for example, where they have lifted the ban on drugs, and they've had positive results because they're not giving the let's use heroin as the example. Let's say heroin, they're not giving it like a prescription and saying, "Oh, well, here's your bottle of heroin, take it home," and and then they end up abusing it. So what they do, it's like the ketamine clinic. You go, you're in a safe environment.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. You're administered the drug, and then by a professional, and then you go about your business, and they have a treatment plan, and it's a completely different environment, and I think because of that, it changes the psychological response that they have. Come using like we could use the veterans returning from Vietnam as the example. A lot. I can't remember the exact statistical number. I was trying to look it up real quick, but I'm not Jamie.
Let's go,
I
Jamie.
can't find this stuff. Yeah. I
sent you to fucking Jurassic Park and you didn't learn anything.
sent me a computer too. And it's not, but
fucking dinosaurs.
Brian mailed me a gaming computer so I could have a better setup for the podcast, and the thing got
Nice.
trashed in transit. So I'm still using my old laptop. But thank you, UPS. Waiting for that insurance payout. But the veterans returning from Vietnam, a large number, I can't remember the percentage, but a large number of people were addicted to heroin coming back. And I think half of them right off the bat kicked the addiction without any outside interference. It was just the fact that they were outside of that stressful environment that they were in Vietnam, and they came back home where they're in a safe place. They never did drugs again. And then there was also that other portion of people that continued using.
Well, I would wonder if they did that, who would be affected, if like what communities, like what socioeconomic, like, you know what I mean? I think for a while, but my question too is kind of twofold. You know, what would that do to the drug dealers? Like the ones that
they would
are
still
like
be around.
outside of
I mean,
you think so? I mean,
yeah,
because that had to
absolutely.
affect a lot of drug dealers for marijuana, right?
Nobody is going to be able because drug dealers haven't been able to make really good money unless you're selling in bulk with marijuana. Marijuana is there. They make a little bit off of it, but marijuana is so abundant and so out there already that they're not really, it's more of a drawing in a factor. But the drug dealers for heroin and meth and all the man-made drugs will still be there. Number one, because it is man-made. So you can still make it and still undercut these businesses.
Still
Nobody's going to open up
open source, right? You have to make completely new designer drugs that have different proprietorship, or nobody knows how to make it, or something. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, the big thing. I'm sorry.
Let me throw out this scenario. So what if the government, and I don't know how this works in other places, but let's just continue using heroin as the example. Let's say the government started giving heroin away for free to people who are addicted to it and medically addicted to it. Like they have a doctor that says this person is addicted. They need
let's get them off
heroin.
this way.
Let's get them on. Let's get them treatment and give them heroin for free. I feel like if I'm addicted to heroin, I can go get free heroin from a clinic or go to the drug dealer and possibly overdose on some fentanyl. I'm going to take the free
walk
stuff.
up with some cheeseburgers.
So here's one thing that you got to remember though, how addicting heroin is, how addicting crack and cocaine is. So if you're going in and getting a free shot, I guarantee you they're not going to be like, hey, you can come in anytime, 15 times a day if you want to, right? They're going to have a limit. It's just like marijuana.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So
I see what you're saying.
That's legal in
it's like cutting me off at the bar. It's like, fuck you, I'll just go buy some beer at home.
Go buy some beer and go back home. So, you know, like Louisiana's marijuana from a dispensary is legal to buy from here, right? But I can only buy 2 ounces. If I had a prescription and I bought weed from them, I can only buy 2 ounces a month. So what happens if you can only get 2 shots a month? Where are you going to go to get to? Because heroin is so addicting. It's not like a weed thing or a shroom thing or ketamine.
And when you're a drug dealer, you're just going to find out. You're going to find new ways to make money. Right. I mean, you're going to find where the scarcity, like you just said, it's like the prohibition. It doesn't matter, right?
I think overall, so I mean, I'm speaking, and I'm not necessarily strong in one direction or other. I'm just going off of the information I've gotten based off of other countries that have implemented this.
What's those populations?
I don't have all the specifics. This is a documentary that I watched years ago. Right?
I know exactly what you're talking about, and that's a very good case. And somebody, we had talked about this before with another buddy of mine, and I say, all right, well, those populations of that country, let's say it's only 2 million. Okay, well, you just covered half of New York. Right. So now you look at that countries and what drug problems they do have that they're not publicly putting out there that other residents and locals may deal with.
You're looking at like Switzerland and shit, like their prison system. But
where they're
it's
a small Switzerland's like got the same population as Baton Rouge.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So you put it on a much grander scale. We have hundreds of millions of people that have access to legal meth and heroin and these hard drugs that are in everyday use. Grab your soul. And that's look, I know a guy that's that was here around town or another parish anyways, but he was a professional bodybuilder, sponsors, making 6 figures a year, beautiful family, 2.5 kids, white picket fence, the whole 9 yards, right? Had the world in the palm of his hand, and got hooked on crack, ended up becoming a crackhead, homeless now, family moved completely away, living on the streets. And like a buddy of mine asked me, like, dude, why are you doing this? He's like, because I don't care about anything but crack cocaine. I'll work so I can smoke. He's like, well, what about your family? Have you talked to your kids? No, because they won't talk to me because I'm a crackhead and I'm not giving up crack.
Right.
So that is how those types of drugs grab onto people's lives. It's horrible.
So here's
Horrible.
my question. So I know the drug addicts are going to be a certain way. The drug dealers are going to be a certain way. Looking at it, the taxpayer way, the money, all that kind of stuff that can be accumulated and put into different programs for the next generation, for educational programs, kind of like the DARE project. I know the DARE program probably wasn't the best because I was in the DARE program in 5th grade and I drank beer in 5th grade. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and
Right.
I was wearing the damn t-shirt.
Right.
But looking at, where you're reallocating some of the money and funds from taxpayer stuff. I mean, I know Denver got a lot of money for marijuana and different things. That doesn't mean it's going to stop people, but sometimes it does stop the younger generations when they see something like that. So I don't know how much that'll sway. I know people with the man-made drugs, like you said, they're going to get super addicted. And I think I definitely agree with you. Some of that stuff should not be on the streets. Meth, glass, all that shit that's very easily made with chemicals in the houses and shit that are just nasty. But also,
Dude,
I worry about the prison system and how the drug game has kind of, people were getting big sentences for marijuana and now it's legal.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
it's absolutely, yeah.
And
I
it's
mean,
almost like farming prisoners. It's like, let's solve homelessness. Well, why would we solve homelessness when we're getting paid money to solve homelessness? You know what I mean? Like
a big downfall to the prison system is whenever it went privatized, because
right,
they get
corporations,
they don't have
Yeah,
the
they're
corporation takes over a prison and they get paid per head.
Yep.
So why not sit there and have somebody that's a low end offender, put him in there with lifers? He's going to commit another crime that's going to extend his sentence.
And that's what I was talking about, low
extend it.
fruit. They already know the statistics. They already know, hey, this guy is worth this much money because he's going to come in here and every year it's $60,000 of taxpayer money and he's going to be a repeat offender. They probably have spreadsheets on this shit.
Oh, as a matter of fact, I know 100%
business plan,
because you have to look at how many Department of Corrections, DOC inmates you have, how many parish, how many regular inmates and everything else. And you get paid, if you're a DOC facility, you get paid for housing certain DOC inmates. So we'll sit there and take child molesters and murderers and house them because the big pen is too full, but we're putting them in there with town drunks and local dealers and, pickpockets and little penny ante bullshit crimes.
Yeah, right.
Well, now you're in here with the fucking lifer. So you go in with
learn more,
a minor in thievery and come out with a master in burglary.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's that movie. What was it? Blow. Johnny Depp says it. You go in with a minor and transportation of marijuana, and I come out in a major of cocaine.
Or you look at the movie Shot Caller. You seen that one with the white guy that goes in there from a car accident, and then he's the shot caller at the end. It's a badass movie. If you haven't seen that shit, man,
that's a good fucking movie.
And, and that's
seen that several times.
So speaking of movies, so having spent so much time in the world that you were in, what is the most accurate movie that depicts what you do?
I honestly, I haven't really seen one.
Yeah.
I mean, like there's a.
You heard it first, Hollywood. You need to hit my boy Matt up.
I mean,
he's funny as hell. He'll look like Hangover, man. He'll put some of these glasses.
Zach Galifianakis.
Galifianakis. Put the baby out
I hear
there.
That all the
walk
time.
Up in there like, you trying to fuck on me?
You fuck on me, fat boy. It's funny because he's fat.
Yeah, you kind of look like Zach Galifianakis and Bradley Cooper had a baby. And
I'll have no problem calling either one of them my dad or both of them my dad.
Daddy, money, peas.
Be like, what? Do you ever watch Parks and Rec?
Yeah, Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's got Chris Pratt in it, right?
Yeah,
and then
John Ralphio,
Aziz
Ansari.
Yeah, Aziz Ansari. Yeah, there's a character in there. She's a spoiled little rich chick, and she always goes, "Money, please," to her dad. And I was like, "Oh, my daddy's with them." I'm like, "Money, please." Give me
I think about like the movie Point Blank too, like going undercover and trying to like get into a group or a gang. So Did you ever get into the motorcycle gang stuff too? Things like that?
No,
No, not in
didn't
that range?
didn't do that. That was a goal of mine. I didn't meet my uncle. How I got into the UC world is my uncle did 8 years undercover with the ATF. He's retired. And so like, growing up listening to him tell stories and everything else,
Fuck
it was
yeah.
just always a goal of mine in law enforcement. And
Was he a biker and shit too, or was he?
yeah. So he did a lot of cases and a lot of different stuff, but that was just something I always liked, but it just wasn't prominent here. We didn't have a big in my area. Just St. Tammany is pretty big with the Banditos a little bit, but it was just never
If you didn't grow up riding fucking bikes and jumping motorcycles,
and
or
that's
like dirt bikes,
something
you
right
have to
there
be
that
fucking yeah. You know what I mean?
and that's
Yeah.
like it's I could do it if you give me time to prep, but I'm gonna have to take a couple months to start prepping myself.
It's a whole yeah. You
It's a
gotta go.
whole
The
different
Marine
ball
Corps, you
game.
got to go on the motorcycle safety shit on the little course.
Yeah.
Learners in the beginning. You're like,
lean. Yeah,
Yeah.
that wouldn't really fly.
that's got to be a whole nother level too, because some of those guys are all military and they're fucking smart. You know what I mean? They're part
That's
of
how
those
the
gangs.
motorcycle gangs got started. Was with
Hell's
military.
Yeah,
Angels,
Vietnam veterans.
Hell's Angels,
I
and
think it was
B2.
World War II.
World War II. Hell's Angels.
Was it
right?
World War
The
II?
bombers. Yep.
Yeah, World War
Yep.
II veterans. That's where the bike gang started, man.
Hell's Angels,
No
yeah,
kidding.
they were bomber pilots and shit like that, and they rode motorcycles and stuff, and came back and they raced motorcycles in the Marine Corps. But I know Marines that are part of, charters or clubs, right?
Yeah,
Call them clubs,
yep.
like the 3 Patch.
Yeah, I
and different
mean,
stuff like that.
there's the
And they're-
1%
and they're
clubs, and then there's the
fucking-
sister clubs and the
yeah.
Brotherhood Club, stuff like that. And honestly, that's we have a couple of them around here, and I've never dealt with them, never had any really run-ins with them. Nothing bad or
Yeah, I had a
anything.
buddy. I mean, some of those guys are like fucking recon, special. I mean, yeah, Vietnam vets that are special forces and shit like that. Like, you fuck around with those wrong people, I think you're gonna get killed. Like, and you know what I mean? I think it's not like a low level street gang.
Right.
You're
There's
dealing
a lot.
with guys
There's
that
a
are-
lot more consequences.
Mhm.
I'm talking about the
consequences from salty salt. Yeah,
That's
salty
right.
Celtic. Yeah, I had a buddy that ran with MC Club, and yeah, they did security for Hell's Angels and Sturgis and different things and events and shit like that. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
so they don't play. So now
No,
with
they
like
don't.
security, and you talk about security now, so I know that's what you're kind of doing now. Like you said, you got into the corporate world.
Yeah. So I work for DuPont. And been with them for 3 years. I'm the corporate security manager at the site.
What is DuPont? That's just a chemical they make.
Yeah. So our facility actually makes a chemical called PPDA, and what it is that is woven to make Kevlar. So we make. If you ever heard DuPont Kevlar, my plant
they have a DuPont plant up here.
Okay. Spruance, Virginia. That's
I'm not sure exactly where it's at. I just know they make Kevlar up here.
Yep,
as well.
we make the product and we ship it to them, and then they weave it into Kevlar. So like DuPont Kevlar, helmets, vests, shoes, gloves, tires, anything that we have, and we make the chemical that weaves into it, and been doing it for 3 years. It's different. It's go from buying dope and car chases to passive aggressive emails and meetings. So I mean, it's a big fucking world difference. But
do you know who the fuck I am?
I mean, it's a different world. But man, I don't regret it for a second, man. It gives me the means to be with my kids more, have them every weekend, a set schedule. Don't have to worry about leaving at 2:00 in the morning or anything else. I can just I've been able to find myself and find who I am, with this transition into this life. And, like, kind of like, I think Andrew, you had said, like you lose yourself or no, I'm sorry, Gunny, you said like finding myself, and once Doc and I started MVP and I was able to have the schedule that I need to be the proper dad for my kids and to get them away from that. That's not a healthy environment for my kids to grow up,
100%.
It's not. But now it is. What I'm doing now is healthy, and I'm still able to have my cake and eat it too because I have MVP, and I'm able to still fulfill that service need and that service want through MVP and still be able to be with my kids. So I mean, it's been a fucking roller coaster, but man, I tell you, it's the happiest I've been, and I'm 38, so I mean, it's honestly the happiest I've been in a while, and comfortable about it. You know, like before, I wouldn't have ever done a podcast or feel comfortable about it. But you know, if something I've done or fucked up on can help somebody else and learn from that, then let me fuck up for you, and you just learn from my fuck up, right? So I mean, it's the same thing with my kids. Let me fuck up in my life. My life's done. There's a period at the end of my life. I've done everything I wanted to do. It's damn. It's
So
my baby.
what advice would you give to somebody that was thinking about UC work?
Man,
For all the police officers there, you know what I mean? That aspire
like
to-
honestly, like if you want to get into it and you have a family, you really, really need to sit down with your family and give the entire expectations
Mhm.
and not hide it, because once you start hiding stuff from your family, then the only thing that you start doing is incorporating that with your job, and so you just continue to lie about it and continue to go on and continue trying to live that lie,
Mhm.
and then it just gets muddied. You have to stay yourself. You can't lose who you are in your family just because of the fact that you want to go out there and buy dope. And if you're a single person, you don't have any family, then you need to take an even more consideration, because you don't have anything technically to lose. You don't have a family that's depending upon you. You don't have kids that, need
Yeah.
that paycheck. So you can go even harder.
Yeah.
You have to set your limitations. And the biggest thing, honestly, I wish I knew, is say fucking no.
Right.
Say no. If somebody comes to you with a case that says, "Hey, I got this, this, and this," and your first gut feeling is that's fucked up, it's fucked up. Walk away. Walk the fuck away. I mean, it's I got, like I said, 387 cases we went to court on. Out of all those cases, I got a lot more that we never went to court on, because I either said no from the first transaction because it was a gut feeling. After I got my humility in check, man, I walked away plenty of times. Plenty of times.
I think that's
and
the
it's
key
fine.
thing right there, is that humility, because police officers, mad respect for doing what you're doing as a police officer. It's just like joining the military, but then you want to jump into a higher situation. You want to go special forces, but you have a family of 4. You know what I mean? You got to check yourself. You got to check that ego. And I did that same thing when I met my wife. We were just dating, and I had papers through MARSOC, and I wanted to do it. I was 300 PFT, or I was just who I am. And I think I would have done fine. I mean, I don't know about being a Navy SEAL and dealing with cold water. Like certain things, there's no control. You never know what's going to happen. But
Right.
I was go, man. I'm going everything I do with MMA fighting.
Yep.
I'm going to fucking do it. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm just like you did an MMA fight. It's like, fuck it. I'm 100% that guy. Oh, you want to give me a fucking level 5 spicy nut that's fucking hotter, 3 times hotter than the spice? I'll fucking do it. I don't give a fuck. Right. But there's a problem with that when you're trying to do those things when you have a family, or you want to have that family life. So for me, I went on my deployment. I'm like, I had to check myself. And am I doing it for that ego because I want to be a badass? And I kind of hit it. I was like, I still want to have a family. So what the fuck am I doing? You know what I mean? Is it really, I want to be in the teams? Do I really want to do something like this? Or is it me just trying to be a badass? And you could go be a badass in other avenues and other things. And Righteous Dad, you could be a badass being a dad. There's no more important thing than you could fucking do than being a good fucking dad.
That's
if you think about
right.
it, man, because
that's absolutely right.
That's it. And that's why when I said, Righteous Dad, that's the fucking name. So, inspiring people to do that. And you have to, I think my biggest advice too, and I think, man, if you want to go out and do badass things, go do it, but do it for a certain amount of time, like you did, and then leave. You know what I mean? We can't be infantry forever. We can't be UC forever. We can't be a Marine forever. But understand that you can't work forever.
That's right.
Corporate people, if you're doing your job and it's killing you, fuck, man, is that worth it? Is it worth trying to get $1 million when you don't know your fucking kids? And we talked about today the consequences, right? With the Salty Sailor talk.
Right.
If you guys don't know about the Salty Sailor talk, My Veteran Passion, we have a group discussion where we talk about a topic, and then it all stays in house. And today was consequences. You know what I mean? And there's those consequences. So to me, I think that's great advice. So if you're thinking about, UC work or joining the military, you have to have those thoughts. And if you have a family, I think you have to bring them in. And,
Yeah, 100%.
So
Communication is absolutely paramount. It's, just like Andrew, in the corporate world, if you're not communicating with your with your businesses, what your expectations are, or what you're going to be doing, or what you want, then it's going to fall. It's going to fail. And that's what I did in my marriage. I just stopped communicating. I just lived my lie, and that's what failed.
You
And
gotta learn how to compartmentalize.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's really. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, it's really hard to especially something you're passionate about. It's hard to separate those. And especially if you want to leave it at work, then you can leave it at work, but then personal life starts bleeding into it, or vice versa. And then it's a slippery ass slope unless and I think, and that's why now I have my people that I have to get, if you haven't thought that I haven't tried to get back into UC work since I've stopped, I have. I mean, a buddy of mine called me up, was like, hey man, I might need you. I was like, fuck dude, I'm there. Don't pay me. I don't want nothing. Let me get back into it. I was a crack fiend. I was like, fuck yeah, dude, let's go. Let me buy dope. Yay. And I was all about it, and I started realistically sitting down. And I was like, all right, I know what I do for my mental prep for these cases. Do I want to go through that mental prep and deal with the aftermath after the case? Of
you're going to be punch drunk. It's like being a fighter. It's like being a fighter, man. It starts hitting you in different ways.
It could, did I push my luck too much last time? And now this is it. This is how people get fucked up. And it's just, as a matter of fact, my buddies now, they absolutely refuse if they ever hear about any, he's running for sheriff now, but he told his guys, if I ever find out you get mad on another UC case, you're fired. It's just, and that's what I need, because they know I'm dumb enough to jump straight back into it and throw away everything, because it's my drug. It's what
but you also got that Marine Corps side too, man. Your boys are your boys.
Exactly.
Bears was talking about it earlier, man. Shit's gonna come down to ride. He's like, fuck it, I'll go to prison, ride or die. You know what I mean? And some people have that mindset.
If my boys call me and tell me they need help, I got like anything you need. And it's you find out who your true friends are, because my true friends, they never asked me to do it. Or if they did ask me to do it, it's like the last case and we talked about it, ended up not going through. The friends I thought, whenever they asked me to come back doing it, I was like, man, I don't know, I'm thinking about it. And then they get pissed off and try to talk me into it. Well, you're here for what I can offer, not for me. So I don't have time for you.
They're like, hey, Matt, it's like, I just think of like some cheesy fucking 90s or 80s movie where it's like Lethal Weapon, where it's like, bro, I got to meet these two gun runners, like from these different gangs, and you guys are in this big fucking warehouse. Like everybody's fucking on different sides, right? And they all got guns, and they're like, was it ever like that? Like,
no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't ever like that.
You got the fucking Steven Seagal guys with you knew who knew what. You knew like that dude's about to roundhouse kick a motherfucker right there, because he's looking a little Asian. He's like that Asian dude off of Die Hard.
Yeah, most of the people wearing dusters, like black dusters.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, the guys up there, they can't shoot really well. They'll shoot at you a bunch.
It's just hip fire. The guys upstairs, nothing but hip fire, right?
And what's going on with all these wooden crates everywhere? I'm fucking
They're just a bunch of
ducking and hiding, right? Ducking and hiding behind these. Why the hell are there so many flammable barrels around here?
Exactly,
because that shit's blowing up. Like,
why are we in the plant and you drove your vehicles all the way inside? How did you get these vehicles in here? It's not impossible. There's
4 vans opened up, blue. You show me first. No, you show me. All right, we'll do it at the same time. And the van's open.
Why are we in this place that's open 24 hours with cameras everywhere? And I mean,
it'd be much more boring than Hollywood. Hollywood's like, let's get somebody to think about how this shit works. Yeah.
Well, we don't have guns, and you men, they have automatic weapons. And here in America, automatic weapons that get you as prison sentence.
Yeah. We're gonna trade these guns, but we all already have guns. The fuck do we need all these guns in here for? You guys don't need any more guns.
Y'all good.
The thing about movies is that they combine characters and they combine roles and they combine, so like they'll have 10 different people playing, like one person's playing the role. In real life it would be like 10 different people doing it. So like I'm sure like I asked you earlier, like is there any movie that is like accurate to what you've been through? And you're like, no, it's because like your role is at the bottom level. You're not the guy going back. You don't have like the kingpin in the middle with the arrows going from the little guy. Well, I got this guy, and how does he connect to this over here? You're not doing that. That's in the movie because they're combining 20 people's job into one person to make it interesting.
My job was go into high crime, high drug areas and buy dope.
So
here's a couple people that we want you to buy from. Work your way up to them. And I would
So
just have
it's
names.
kind of like a UFC fighter, and then people thinking like the Kumite, like Bloodsport, it's some underground fucking Mortal Kombat when it's really like totally different.
Yeah,
You
I
know what
mean,
If you think about it in a sense.
you know, like maybe I just haven't seen enough movies, but it's hard to kind of see on that level, you know, like you were saying, Andrew, that's a perfect example. And, you know, I never really thought about it, but it's that low level. And that's not sexy for movies. That's not the in-depth thing, but, you know, it's working their way up to that person, you know, and
I think we all already experienced.
You're not going.
I think
if
you did any drugs and you've already been to like a trap house or fucking you bought drugs from your buddy or your buddy had a fucking half ounce on him and the sheriff stopped you and you're like, oh shit, you've already kind of lived it.
Yeah.
In a sense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've already been to your buddy's basement and smoked some dope and then left. Or you knew somebody that was they bought a pound and now they're selling it to people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's right.
You know, speaking of which, I always wondered like a situation that like you found yourself in that and you had to hit the crack, so you didn't get shot in the face, right? Or
right.
What happens after that when you're as a police officer? Like you have to call your sergeant when you get into a safe place and you're like, hey, this is what happened.
Yeah.
You have to go to the hospital and get treated. Like you have to go. I mean, I'm sure there's a procedure.
Yes.
Right?
There's so that, right? I had my cover team on the phone, and when they found out that actually I was being forced, they came in, but the deed was already done, and I was walking outside. You know, the whole operation was fucked up.
Because they don't want you to be flipped. They don't want it to seem like it's you too, right? You know what I mean?
I had my cover teams. I always had, people with me that if I gave my safe word, they would come in and save me. I always have to have that. At least one person that's out there listening to me on my phone and just making sure I'm safe. So,
so you were never just
going
like
off or some shit.
You were never just going off like unsupervised, like where people didn't know where you were at. Like it was always like a plan.
No, I mean, like I would tell them, like, all right, I'm making my block, or I'm hitting a town, and then they would be on the outskirts of the town, and I would just go throughout the entire town and hit it up or anything else. Like, all right, it's dead here. I'm going to go to this part, and I'll just give them a centralized. Yeah, well, no, I wasn't. No, I wasn't wearing a wire, but it was some other devices. But it was I just give them the roundabout area where I would be at, and then once I started making the deal, then I would call out like, all right, I want to go to Smith Street. Here's the address or whatever, or I'd try to get it on the fly, and then I would relay it to them afterwards. But this particular case, because of how it was, I had to cover. It was a predetermined target, and I was going there, and they had time to. They couldn't set up close because it's at a dead end. It was a trap house dead end, so they had to set in their narc vehicle stick out like a mile, like just fucking stick out bad.
Like the NWA where they got like the tank thing.
Yeah,
down the street.
Yeah. I mean it's
like training day. They got the shoes up there. They're doing fucking signals and calls, and they probably got people watching out.
Yeah, like once they see them, they'll shut it down. If anybody they don't know around the area, then they're not selling for sure. It'll shut down the whole operation for the night. So, they staged a good ways out. Then we came up into the house, and like I said, it was at a dead end. So that's red flag number one. I didn't have an exit. I didn't have an exfil. So should have called it then. But arrogant, kept on going, and was walking up towards the house. The whole operation had changed. It was supposed to be a window serve. Pull up next to the car, get the dope exchange, and then pull out. It didn't happen. It moved up because I won't go in that much detail, but the operation moved up, got to put it in a trap house. And when we were walking in there, they were trying to separate us, get us back. So that was a big red flag. And go in there. It's a dead end shotgun house. There were 2 people smoking crack in the kitchen. Then there were 4 people in the living room. And the dealer was sitting in the living room, and he was, dealing out his dope, whatever. So go in there, try to dap him up. Wasn't feeling me. He's like, man, I don't know who the fuck you are, blah, 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 blah. I'll order up my crack. He serves me. And I'm thinking, all right, well, he's questioned me this much because I'm a white boy. I'm in a predominant or an all African-American neighborhood, and I'm a white boy. So that's why he's questioned me. Then I see another white guy come in, buy dope from him. and just serve him straight up. I was like, okay, well, that's not the case because he's used to
This
serving
guy
white
was
people.
kind of smart. Yeah,
He was smart. He was smarter than your average one, right? So, after the crazy thing is like when he told me he didn't know who he was, he put his hand on my chest and started feeling around my chest for a wire. So I let him search me, and the guy came up and yoked me up from behind. But I had
Little
my
did he
gun.
know you had a nipple mic, like a nipple ring mic or
No,
something.
it's a cock ring because I can angle it up and I can get it's right there. But it doesn't really pick up all that well. It's only when I get excited does it really pick up. It's weird.
Start
I don't know what
helicoptering it
happened.
around and shit. It's all weird.
Hello. But no, we went in there and they patted me down. They found my gun that I had on my left side, and I pulled away from them and said, "Oh, that's my shit. That's my gun." Talked my way out of it. They even let me keep my gun, which that's a huge fucking red flag. Because when I walk into the room, they got two guys. One guy's hands in the seat cushion of the couch, not showing me his hand. Other guy's with his hands behind the chair, sitting in the corner. Well, the guy in the corner goes, "Well, let me see your gun." So I'll pull it out and I show it to him. He goes, "Oh, that's cute." I was like, "Oh, fuck. That's, I brought a water. Yeah, it's not good."
Having start pulling out a bigger gun to show you.
They got a Mac 10 or something.
Yeah. So the deal went down. Like I bought the dope. And I was like, fuck, okay, case done. Wrap it up, boys. I did it again. And I go to turn around. He goes, "Oh, hold up. Put smoke in the pipe. I want to see you smoke it." I was like, "Nah, I'm good." Go through my whole litany, a list of different excuses. He was shooting them.
Fucking training day, man.
Just every excuse, every
had
fucking
to be
excuse.
training day.
And the dude was just like, "Nope, smoke it. Nope, smoke it." So I fake hit it. Well, I'm sorry. Ended up, there was a crackhead in the kitchen hitting the pipe. And my final excuse was like, "Dude, I ain't wasting my fucking crack." He's like, "Well, I'm giving you some here. You can keep yours. Put that in your pocket. I'm giving you a free 10 rock. What crackhead's going to turn down a 10 rock to smoke?" Right. So trying to talk my way out of it. And, he's like, "Nah, don't worry about it. You can keep that one." And they yanked the crack pipe out of the crackhead's mouth and then shove it in mine. So he goes, "All right, put smoke in it." So I fake hit it. And I tried to fall back and I try to act like I blew out smoke. He's like, "Nah, motherfucker, put smoke in it." So I tried to fake hit it again. And then he got really pissed and they stood up and, gathered around me and all this other good shit. And they took it out of my mouth. They shoved it in somebody else's there. He's like, "Put smoke in it for your boy." And he takes a fucking monster hit. And they rip it out of his and then they put it in mine. And I had to take the hit, blew it out. And then the dude was like, "All right, man, you cool. See you later." So after that, so what ended up happening was my cover team heard that they found my gun and they were coming in to come pull me out of the house, right? Well, they stopped because they heard me talk my way out of it and they even heard me keep my gun. So they pulled back in their staging location. They didn't realize by the time they knew that they were forcing me to smoke crack, they were too far out to react. So I'd already walked out of the house, and one of the crackheads that walked me into the house, he starts running underneath like a real overgrown oak tree. And the branches almost hitting the ground. I was like, "Well, fuck, he's robbing me." Because that's why he's going in the shadows. He's got a gun. He's going to rob me because he saw the wad of cash on me. So I turn around to him and I'm lifting my shirt up and I'm drawing down on him. And then I hear somebody yell, "It's the people, it's the people, it's the people." So it's the cops. And it's my buddies coming up because of what happened. And the reason why they were really late is because they kicked in the house in front of the dope house, which was the grandma to the bad guy. And so they got to see butt naked grandma when they kicked in that house. And then they came over to my house and got me. And they took me to the hospital, flushed my system.
So when they came over and got you, they just came over and arrested you and all that.
Yeah,
shit.
so they
put you down.
They started taking everybody down. Yeah. They yoked me down and everything else, hooked me up. I resisted and all that good shit, and then took me to the hospital and got home that night. Went to sleep. Woke up the next day and started buying dope again. Went back out the very next day.
Oh, okay. So the hospital has like a procedure for that type of stuff.
Yeah,
they flush your system out. That's interesting. Yep. Kind of like I guess kind of like similar when you go to the hospital with alcohol poisoning, they give you
exactly
charcoal.
It's the perks of UC work, man. You just get to chase the purple dragon. Sometimes you get it.
I know. You get to chasing.
So like, have you ever been like undercover and like a police officer pulled you over, like an
Mhm.
on-duty police officer, and you had to
I had no
like
idea.
he had no idea who you were, and you just had to like just play cool.
all the time.
Or
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
that happened. Yeah, because police they patrol the areas that you were
Yeah.
hanging out
I
in.
mean, think about it. You see me in a high crime, high drug area, especially, let's say it's if you put an African American you see in a predominantly white trailer park, are they not
Yeah,
going to
you'd be
stick
like,
out?
yeah,
That's
hell
you know
yeah.
Right.
that's not racially profiling. What that is called criminally profiling. You're looking at what doesn't fit and see what else happens to come out. If I see a white guy coming out of a predominantly African American high crime, high drug area at 2 o'clock in the morning on a
There ain't no
Wednesday,
reason he
that's
should be
fucking
there.
suspicious.
Yeah,
So
he
funny.
ain't there
I got-
playing. He
I
ain't there
got a-
playing basketball. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I got a funny story that goes along with that. When I first moved to Virginia, I run a 24-hour business. I have 3 restaurants that I run, but I'm new to the area, and I needed a nighttime server for one of my restaurants, and somebody says, "Oh, we'll call so and so. She needs hours," and so I call her. She sends me her address. I've lived here for 6 days,
Hmm.
and I
He
drive to the
runs 3
city.
strip clubs, is what he's saying. It sounds like you run 3 strip clubs, brother.
No, it's Waffle House, man. It's Waffle House.
You don't have to
Work
say
for-
it. It's
work
not
for
the
Waffle
Waffle.
House.
It ain't no
Yeah.
Waffle House. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
So I
What kind of waffles? You know,
I
waffles.
drive to the city to pick up a server, and I mean I'm dressed like this because I was hanging out with the family, and I've got a Ford Expedition. It's waxed. The chrome rims are clean. Like I'm just this clean cut white boy, and I end up in the projects. And I mean, it was like in the street lights were and there was no street
That's
lights,
where
and that was
Cinnamon
just
lives. I mean,
yeah, it was just the lights on the building, and I couldn't even see the number of the building. So I'm driving through the projects, and it's these apartment buildings, and I'm on the phone with this girl, and I have all the buildings look the same. I have no idea where I'm at. I'm super confused, and I'm driving around, not paying attention, and I see a cop drive by. He drives past me, and he's all up in my window, just
Oh,
like
yeah.
looking at it. And I was just, I was just like, I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" I didn't even
I'm
really.
just here for
It
prostitution.
didn't even like register in my mind that I was.
Bro,
in
you
the
look
hood,
like
you know?
yeah, that's
Oh,
probably what
man.
they're thinking.
He's like, yeah. So I'm looking for her. I'm on the phone with her. She comes up. Same cop drives past me again. He's circling the parking lot. In the neighborhood. She comes out, gets in my car. As I'm pulling away, he's back at the street. He circled it again, and he sees me. He gets behind me, and he pulls me over, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "Well, I'm picking up an employee to go to work. And, I'm not in uniform, so I'm just like, I manage this business. She works for this business. I'm here to pick her up." He's like,
So
"You shouldn't."
sketch.
Yeah,
Bro, this dude's like,
but they questioned us separately, and we gave the same story. But he was like, "You shouldn't be here."
Yeah.
And he's like, "You don't know these people. She could have told somebody you were coming." I mean, she doesn't know me. I was like, "Dude, I don't know. I've never been here. I'm not from here. I've lived here for 6 days. I don't know." But just to say, go along with what you were saying, man, I stuck out like a sore thumb. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
like I'm in a predominantly black neighborhood. I'm clean cut. I've got, I did not fit in, and he circled that block like 3 times until he saw somebody jump in my car, and I didn't even pull over. I just stopped in the middle of the road. She got in, and I drove away. It looked suspect.
Oh, yeah,
At
absolutely.
the minimum. So, I mean, if I was a cop, I would have pulled me over for that. But, I mean, I could just imagine you probably had run-ins with police all the time. Did it ever get to the point where you had to like say, "Look, man, I'm a cop, chill"? Like,
No, we would play it out as much as we can, but we'd also have, because at the same time, if I'm going into a place where I don't know the cops and I tell them that, I don't know who they know. I don't know if they're a good cop. I don't know if their cousin is, because it happened all the time. They would say, "Look, if you see or hear about so and so coming by, go the other way because his brother's the biggest drug lord here, and he shares information." So I mean, that's I hate saying it, but
you
it's
can't
not
prove it, but
unheard
you
of.
hear it, right? I mean,
Right, exactly. And it's
it
not a
was,
fucking risk that
Yep.
I'm going to
Yeah.
take
Yeah,
whatsoever.
it's not worth
Right.
compromising your safety.
So I mean, like if we got to that point, what ended up what we had was if it was getting to the point I couldn't talk my way out or just take the ticket because I had a fake driver's license, a whole 9 yards, car insurance, everything else. But if I had, especially if I had dope on me and they want to search my vehicle, that's when narcotics would have, my cover team would have pulled up and said, look, he's under investigation. They would have arrested me. And then they would have handled it from there and taken over the case. So it still keeps it, it try to, but because I just didn't trust anybody at all.
Yeah.
I
So it
didn't
never
want.
gets to a point where you pull out the badge or anything like
I
that.
never carried a badge.
Yeah.
I did not carry. The only thing I would never, ever wouldn't carry a commission badge, nothing that identified me as law enforcement at all. Nothing. I had my cover team. If something happened where I needed to identify myself as a cop, then my cover team should have already been there before I had to. You know what I mean? So it was just, it's an unnecessary risk to take. And it's because I remember my uncle was telling me a story. My uncle actually, he was on a National Geographic talking about his times whenever he did undercover work and the ATF and motorcycle gangs and stuff like that. And it's still up there on their page. It's pretty cool. But he was saying like one of the incidents is there was a citizen pulled up while they were trying to do a gun deal with the motorcycle gang, and his partner, the guy wouldn't leave, and his partner came over and he flashed him a badge, said, "You need to get the fuck out of here." And that was a true story, but his partner almost got busted. And one of the vice president for the motorcycle gang, they ended up having a falling out, and he got kicked. The real gang member got kicked out of the gang because he said that my uncle's partner was a cop, because whenever he went up and talked to that dude in the car, he saw a gold shine on the roof from that guy's wallet. And he said, that's the only thing that'll make that shine is a cop badge. He's a cop. And, it ended up being true, but they still got the bus because they ended up kicking the VP out and making the cop the fucking president of another chapter. So it worked out great.
Yeah, you can't fuck up. I mean, you got people that see shit, and some people are smart. So with the team,
just like I'm, like how we're filling each other out, it's the same thing in a dope deal. I'm filling them out, they're filling me out. They're asking me questions they already know the answer to. They just want to see how I'm going to respond.
Right. They're trying to fuck with you, just see if they can get you to be
absolutely
your limbic system to move a certain way and all that shit.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then I would take stuff that they use against me or question me on, and then I would take that for the next case, the next area, and I would take those questions they're asking me and turn it around and ask the new
make a
dope
joke
dealers
or something. Yeah,
make a joke about it. Use that lingo, use that because that's a common thing in that drug world. So I can have stories now to relate when I'm buying dope from this person, getting robbed from this person. I playing a bitch, going in there and being a real beta male and very just. Honestly, I like doing that. Like where they think they got me and I'm their little bitch boy, right? Yep. And I'm just going in there buying dope, and every time I buy, I'm like, yeah, I got you, motherfucker. I'll see you
stupid.
Later.
You gotta
I'll
play
see
stupid,
you later,
right? Yep.
Yeah, and it's a great feeling, So.
Well, and I think, like you said, the more experience you have on it, the better you get. Like even with the podcast stuff, the more different personalities I get here, like you said, it's more. Helps me with the next episode or whatever the questions I ask or where I try to lead a discussion and stuff like that. So it's good. So your team that you had before, like you said, the team that comes in to help identify you as a cop. So is that like any other team? Are they all doing the same job as you, or is it they have certain positions and you are that running back where you're out there getting the ball? You know what I mean? You're out there on the lines. So it's like, you got certain specific.
So I'd have the case agent, the one that's actually working the case up. If it's a specific target,
he's got statistics, certain things.
He's got the data, the intel, the knowledge, and all that stuff. He's coordinating the case. He's coordinating the cover teams, where the vehicle's at. If a couple of times I had to use a helo with the DEA, how high the helo's flying, what he can pick up on FLIR, how long they can follow him afterwards. It's a whole fucking ordeal, right? So I'm just the grunt on the ground. Right, getting the materials and coming back, and they're doing the tactical logistic stuff. The guys that covered me the most, like from my agency, they had either done rips, which is you buy dope from somebody and then they immediately take them down. It's called a buy rip, right? I didn't like buy rips because that blows my
Setting them
cover.
up at like a motel or something. And
Yeah,
then
I mean, I've done those.
You just push
I've,
them out because I've seen that on TV and like documentaries and stuff like that.
I've
Same
done
thing with
those before,
prostitution,
but
where it's, you know,
we instead of taking them down that day, we would hold it for 6 months and put their arrest warrant in, have it confidential. Nobody else but the judge would see it. And then once the cases were done and enough time had to where I could fall back in the shadows, then they would go out and arrest everybody I bought dope from. So it would be different
Gotcha.
roundups.
And then they already have everything. So it wasn't as much as flipping people, getting people and flipping them as much as it's just getting them to do things. And then you have a case on them.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine that it would be worthwhile to try to flip somebody and then they know you're a cop.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
then
it's not.
That's
I
just
mean,
like,
the
what are they
only
going to do?
time-
It's either they're going to say something and you're going to die just because whatever.
But
or
you
like-
you can flip them in the UC way because you wanna work your way up. So I want to sit there and buy this, runner's dope from him X amount of times, get 2 or 3 good cases on him, good quality photo, everything else, video, and then after that, um, give them an amount that they have to bring me to their person. Make it to where they can't provide that to me, or it's going to be too expensive. So I try to, and if they
Gotcha.
won't do it, then that person's dead. That's where it stops. I'll go out another way.
Gotcha. So you're not saying, hey man, I'm an undercover cop. You bring me to them or fucking I'm
No.
going to jail. Because
I
that's
mean,
what
some
I was
people
gonna say.
do.
That doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't seem like it's worth the risk. You know,
No,
what I mean?
not for me, and not for what.
Especially
Now there
in the
is
area your parents
people
live.
that can do that, and that it's definitely worth the risk.
But that's at a higher level,
Um,
maybe, and with more resources and money
yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So, like, how did you see, like, in your time? I mean, 12 years is a long time. And it's, I mean, what changed?
12 years
What
in the
did-
Marine Corps.
Oh, I thought you
And-
were doing 12.
12 years
I
in the
did-
Marine Corps, 5 patrol, and then 3
No, I
years
did
as
12.
detective.
I did 12 total in law enforcement.
Okay,
Um,
so
3 years
so
being detective.
Mhm.
Okay.
how did you see like the climate change in your time? Like, yeah, I mean, you saw. I'm sure there's like there's ebbs and flows. I'm sure of like different drugs that are more popular at different times, and like like what was going on when you entered into that? Like, what was the climate like when you came in versus when you
Whippets
came
to
out?
no, I was kidding.
No, I mean, like you could, like when I first got into law enforcement, it was 2008. So I did my 4 years, got out, went in the reserves, became a cop. 12 years total. I did 5 years as a detective, 3 years undercover. So
Okay,
when I
fine.
first became a cop, you could almost break down drugs by race. How it was prominent in that culture where I'm from, not speaking for every state, but just in the area at that time, which is completely different now. It's how it was. The black culture was really big in crack. Powder cocaine was a multicultural, but it was an upper scale. You had meth, bikers, white people, white trash, weed, multicultural, ecstasy or designer drugs. That was a really big Asian drug, Asian culture influenced that. When I got out as a cop, it's everywhere.
Everybody's doing everything.
When I first became a cop, man, I'm arresting people for crack, and I'd ask them about other drugs. Like, man, fuck that heroin shit. I'd never do fucking heroin. Fuck that bullshit. That's horrible. That's junkies. That's bad people, right? Fast forward 12 years, and at the end of my career, you would have these hardcore drug dealers that are doped out of their mind on fentanyl and heroin and can only use crystal to come up off that high, and then only can use heroin to come down off the meth high. So it's just a vicious cycle back and forth. Like I was having, drug dealers telling me, like, dude, I can't even take cocaine to come off this heroin. It's too strong. I got to use meth to come bring myself back down, and it's multicultural now. Every culture is impacted, and a big part of it's because of the pill epidemic.
Yeah, it's crazy
we
because
had.
even alcohol, I mean, math, you can come right back up and it's kind of feels weird. I mean, that's nuts to think of. That makes sense to what your answer to my question before was like, with some of these man-made drugs, like you've seen the progression of how it just kind of destroys every culture. You know what I mean? No matter what, it kind of just, once it catches you, it's no longer taboo,
Right.
you know? And I think if we tried to legalize it, just think, oh, that's going to be taboo to the younger generations.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be taboo. Like you said, you've seen how it grips individuals regardless, right?
Right.
So that makes a lot of sense.
So like one thing that I hear a lot of, and I was curious, do you ever run into any sex trafficking in your time in the law enforcement?
I didn't work those cases. I didn't do any UC work with those cases. And I'd never, that wasn't a,
I would have thought that, I just assumed that there would have been some kind of like overlap, or is it just something that wasn't even in your scope, on your radar?
no, I mean, not in the areas that I were going. It was never in the scope of radar. You know, kidnappings, but you know, as far as like a big enough area to where human trafficking could be a major factor, or you know, an actual lucrative income for the criminal organization, it's not a factor where I was
Right.
at. You know, New Orleans is huge in it because of bourbon and because it's a port city. Any port city is going to be massive in human trafficking, but that's human
It's a higher
trafficking
level, huh?
because of, yeah, that's more of a government type investigation, and it's UC work would be,
That fuck it
unless
up.
it's, well, I mean, it's
Not fucking up,
almost,
what you mean.
how can you prove yourself that you're a human trafficker? Am I going to buy humans? You know, I have to have a product to prove, you know what I mean? Like, how do I, you know,
Yeah.
am I going to have to
Right.
sell you a human to make sure that I'm not a cop? You know, like, so there's
You would
well,
almost
the
need a business or
domestic,
something to
yeah, well,
run
the
that shit, you know?
domestic, yeah, I can see how that'd be really hard
I
to
mean,
get
it's
into.
doable. It's just a longer operation, more in-depth operation, and a very long term, so you can establish yourself in that community and that culture of
And
human
why
trafficking.
you know, and I think a lot of the human trafficking, why do it here? You know, when you could do it in Thailand and different places too, where it'd be a lot easier.
Well, human trafficking, that's a broad term, right? I
Mhm.
think I was more so in when I asked the question, I was thinking more of along the lines of people who are being sucked into like the prostitution rings,
Oh
and
yeah,
yeah,
prostitution and drugs.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
That's milk and
that's
cookies.
that's more of what I was
Yeah.
thinking, was like the domestic human trafficking, not bringing in people from other
Bringing
countries
in,
and stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
I wasn't thinking of that, and
Because
that's a completely
you
different
could just pick up and a 17, 16-year-old runaway and just
kind of get them
play that
addicted
Oh
game.
to
You
yeah,
don't even
drugs.
that's
you don't have to
very
bring boats
prominent.
of women from another country over and
So yeah, I guess that's where my question. I guess I'm sorry, I wasn't like very clear on that, but I guess, like, you know, these drug dealers and people who do the human trafficking are, you know, get these girls addicted to
pimping.
drugs, and then they pimp
Yeah.
them out, or they bring them to another state where they're not familiar, you know, and then they're hooked on crack, and they keep them. They don't know anybody there, and they just put them to
But
work, you know.
what kind of case do you have against that when it's her free will to
Yeah,
do what she's doing? You know what I'm
I mean,
saying? And
there's,
get her
yeah,
away from her pimp. She's just
but
gonna
I
go
guess you,
back. She doesn't know any. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
and unfortunately, like in cases a lot like that, it's on the burden of the state to prove. And if
mm,
you have a no victim in a victim crime, it's not a victimless crime. It's kind of hard to prove that case unless you can prove it on a mass scale. Unless you can have, you know, 30 different pieces of evidence proving that, you know, that human trafficking, or he was getting people hooked on dope and everything else, but you would still have to have a victim. You know, and if
Mhm.
everybody is, you know, like battery, if Gunny punched me in the face right now, and a cop comes over and wants to arrest Gunny, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to press charges. You have no
right.
victim. Charges be dropped, right?
Yeah.
So, well, if a cop saw it, no, it wouldn't. But if he didn't see it, there's no charges.
That's
So
just
it's a
hearsay. Yeah.
victimless crime.
You know what I mean? And
So,
plus the coroner would have to come and shit because I punch hard as fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm old and brittle.
I'm just kidding.
so I guess one more question about that, because I know that you were more on the drug side, but like I hear, I mean, I think it's probably more paranoia, and Facebook, it just kind of perpetuates these things. But like I hear like children being kidnapped a lot. I mean, is that something you see a lot of in law enforcement, and children? And I guess that falls into the human trafficking. That's a broad term again, but I mean, children being kidnapped. I think you hit mute.
Yeah, you might have hit the mute.
Hey, can you hear me, Matt?
You hit the mute,
Yeah.
brother.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I heard everything. I was just muted. My bad. But yeah, dude, that's very common. Social media is a horrible, horrible fucking place for children that can't, especially if you don't try to educate your kids about it and how quickly they can fall into the traps, and especially with the technology they have now, how quickly somebody can disguise themselves like a classmate and everything else. Dude, they used to have an app. It's off the. We had to get a class on it, but it was for basically. It started out for like a construction app, but sexual predators started finding it. And I could find an image of your house, go on Google Earth, copy your image of your house, and then transport it to this search engine, and it will give me the entire blueprint of your home
Oh wow.
because it's public information. It's at the courthouse. They just fast tracked it. So you can sit there and I had a friend of mine, she did the predators online. She would pose as a 13, 14-year-old girl, talk to them, then get them to go meet up and arrest them, right? She did that for years. Well, that was one of the programs they used, and they would talk to their targets, and they were like, "Oh, not even ask specific questions, but pick up on things like, oh, my mom can't hear me in my room. Oh, okay. Well, that means their master bedroom's right here. Her bedroom's got to be right here, which has a window that's facing out to the street. I can get into that window, and it's a whole blueprint on how you could do whatever you want.
Start
It's
asking certain
fucking
questions,
scary.
and you could do
I
shit.
mean, dude, there is
Criminals can be smart, and they could
Yeah.
get all that shit. I watched there's the video where there's two criminals and they're burglars, and they would go to people's houses and say, okay, we're going to rob your shit at some point in 2 months, and they look at their security, and then they would rob them for everything, take everything. They got everything. They got in. Their security system was shit. Then they would go afterwards and like hook them up with a better security system, because these were like career fucking
Yeah.
burglars, man. Like that shit is scary to think about. You know what I mean?
I forgot all about that show. That was a popular show back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name of it, but I do remember that show. It was almost like they would put them.
They do that shit in the broad daylight, and yeah, they park the van up and just take everything. They take everything. So yeah, it's kind of a scary thing, man. But I got you here for almost a little over 2 hours, and we probably said 60 minutes. So
I lost track of time too.
Right. So I know with MVP and everything moving forward, where do you see the future of MVP going? Is there anything that you have on the horizon that you want people to know about, listeners, viewers?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, honestly, right now, I mean, Guns, you can attest to this, right? MVP, the sky's the limit where we're at right now. And one thing that I really like to tell people about MVP is we're not reinventing mental health. We're just fine tuning the will to make sure that we have the tools and the resources for the veterans of nowadays and veterans to come. And it's going to be an ever evolving. If we don't evolve with our veterans, then we're going to be stuck where we're at now, where we're trying to combat invisible scars and visible scars with 1950, 1960 mindset, right? Times change, people evolve, we have evolved as a society, so we have to continue to evolve in the mental health capacity to make sure we're reaching and we have the veterans that need that help. They can, they have a place, and they it's a place that they feel welcomed and wanted to. We have MVP relocation program is, that's one big program that we're getting off the ground right now. If you're moving, you want, need a VA loan, we have loan officers, we have realtors. We're able to get veterans as they're transitioning from active duty back to their home state, and they have a family and they don't feel like our time to deal with the headache of moving. We can help them. We can assist them with that. It's making those little small transitions back into the civilian life that much easier for those veterans, so they can focus in on what's important, and that's getting the mental health that they need, that is owed to them. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say too, also I think we need a lot of people to be a part of it, not just for the mental health and the suicide stuff and the talks, but we need people to be active members of MVP. So, if you still want to serve after you get out of the military, we need your help. And whatever skill set that you bring, like I said, with Righteous Dad, I bring nothing but assassins on here for what they got skill sets. I mean, it was awesome to have Fat Boy on here talking about his undercover work, but we need people that, our financial accountants. It's a nonprofit. We need people that have, organizational kind of mindset, leadership mindset, business mindset. And you don't have to be a veteran. You could be a
No.
veteran supporter. And if you have a business and you want to hire veterans and you want to build people up and you want to have some of the people that are the caliber, that's kind of that, MVP relocation. We can build
Absolutely.
this. There's no limit to it. Right. So, and, and all these other organizations too, if you guys are watching this and you're a part of some kind of nonprofit organization or a nonprofit organization, and you guys want to partner up, there's no scarcity here. It's all abundance. We're going to help you. You can help us. If you're a business that wants to give, you see myveteranpassion.org down here. Please send a donation to it. Share it with everybody. If you know somebody that could benefit from joining this fraternity, sorority, this organization, we want to be the crisis responders for each other. We want to help each other, and you see Patty Pimblett just had a UFC fight, and he had a buddy that, committed suicide, and this stuff is real. This is not something that's veterans. This is something, worldwide. It's not going to stop. Mental health is going to be a problem, especially you talked about technology, pandemics, right versus left political issues. People are going to have issues. So my veteran passion for me, being a member of it for almost, little over a year now, is you slowly progress and I want to be a bigger capacity, and I want to have Righteous Dad to be a big push on it and have MVP guests on here, have people that can tell their stories, because when you're donating to this and you're doing more stuff, you can see these people. And, Matthew Dixon is my veteran passion. Those are the people that we have. And we have over, 700-800 members on MVP, 600 on the Discord by themselves. And we're using virtual reality to try to bring these people together. And as we bring it to active duty, and we start to reach the situation at the lower levels, the E3s to the E5s, before the traumatic experience happens, I think it's going to be a really big antidote, you could say, maybe, for some of the mental health. I don't think it's going to fix all depression and, PTSD and anxiety and all those things, but
it's a tool belt.
We're gonna bring you to the resources, right?
It's a big tool belt to add that you can pull out if you need that assistance, or somebody that you love or care for, where you can immediately send them to get that help. And exactly what you touched on too, Gunny, is something I stress to people. We are a veteran organization, but we aren't just for veterans. Not only do we want civilians to be a part of us, is we have to have civilians, because the way that we look at it and our mindset with it is, I'm in the corporate world. I don't know how to deal with my PTSD, or I'm sorry, I'm trying to get out of the habit of saying PTSD and just saying PTS, because post-traumatic stress disorder, it's not a disorder. That's saying that you have it's not a handicap. It's a post-traumatic stress, and that's it. There's no disorder behind it. Everybody has it, or everybody can get it. I'm sorry.
I almost lost my shit out of IKEA today holding my 2-year-old, man, like just freaking out. 12 items or less, I'm like fucking pissed. Anxiety.
So I don't know how to deal with that in the corporate world, right? But Andrew, you do. You've had your own struggles in life. You've had your own stuff that you've had to mentally overcome, physically overcome. So your struggle with depression, anxiety, PTS, or anything else that same thing veterans struggle with, I now need to lean upon you and see how you adjust and see what tools you're using in the civilian world, because I can't go out to the tire pit and just start fighting with somebody because I'm pissed off.
What's the proper reaction towards
I can't
a passive aggressive
and say, you stupid motherfucking boot, I'm gonna beat your ass.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Or close up to a boss that don't understand.
That is civilians are a key component for us, is because there's so much insight, Andrew, that that you have said during this podcast that I've been able to pick up on in different perspectives. And if we just close our doors to you, I would never be able to learn and grow from that. And I hope that, civilians are able to learn and grow from veterans and seeing 100%. Their struggles, that they're not alone, that you got to break that
stereotype too, that we're
that's
not,
exactly
we're
right.
Not
That's exactly right.
We're not fucked up.
You're not fucked up.
Yeah.
You just hadn't found the right group yet to acknowledge that we're going through the same thing.
Doctor says we're spicy.
Yeah. And
I like, a little spicy. That's it.
Yeah. I like what you were saying, Matt, and it kind of reminded me of a quote. I believe it was Albert Einstein that said the mindset that got you into the situation is not the mindset that's going to get you out, right? So, the approach that MVP is taking, I mean, I've read the papers and the information that Brian's provided to me, and like the solutions that y'all are coming up with the video games and virtual reality, the salty sailor talks, the get-togethers, the gatherings. Y'all are taking a very holistic approach to helping people come together as a community, because I think community is what is going to be the biggest determining factor
Absolutely.
in helping people from falling into those holes of depression.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not a veteran, but I've definitely dealt with my own issues, and I could tell you, and I see, and in being a manager of a business, I see that anxiety is in depression is something that it's across the board. People deal, especially I'm in a high stress situation in the environment that I'm at. So seeing people and how they deal with it, I've learned, I've got a lot of tools in my tool belt to help people. I can bring people back down when I start
Right.
seeing those signs. I can reel them back in, and it's not just veterans. It's everybody. Everybody deals with stress. People don't know how to deal with stress. It's a there's so much to learn, and so we're in the infant stages of understanding these things.
Absolutely.
But anxiety, it's a response. It's a natural response from when you got to think of like when we were an animal living in a cave, or just like it's a survival instinct. But
Absolutely.
we're not living in the wild anymore, but our brain is still built in that way to survive when a predator is coming at us. Instead of a predator, it's an angry customer, or it's a spouse that's not happy, and you still have that same response inside chemically, and
Yep.
and everything's firing off. Sometimes, I mean, those things fire off, they misfire, but that's across the board. That's not just veterans dealing with these things. I know things can get, when you go through the things that veterans go through, it can get, the wiring.
There's a complex reasons for it, but the stigmatism where we can't reach out to each other for help.
Right.
It's kind of a cool episode, and episode 7 is special to me, not only because of Gunny 7, but also because statistically podcasts don't make it to episode 7. So I already made it. So now I can just stop doing it forever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, we're done.
if you think about it, you know what I mean? If you think about MVP and what we're doing different, is it's almost like with Matt, like we're going undercover, and we have to go undercover, and we have to infiltrate these circles of influence, and we have to gain these people's trust, the ones that are going through shit that you might not even know are going through shit, but you have to gain that trust to your brothers, to your veterans, to your friends, to people that we're not the police. We're not fucking Big Brother. And then the military, there ain't no one going to say some shit to their chain of command. I'm a fucking gunny. I'm active duty gunny. Ain't no fucking Lance Corporal going to come to me and say, hey, I'm fucking up. I just hit my wife. I'm fucking up. You know what I'm saying? I might hear it from their boy that's a Lance Corporal.
That's right.
Is he going to tell me? Probably not, because he's not a little narc bitch, right?
Right.
Until it's too late, right?
Until it's too late.
We need to get that
until it goes
outside,
too far.
right? We need the anonymity of the outside, mentorship where, hey man, you're just fucking Ron Mexico or Gunny 7 on fucking video games, and I'm going through some shit, and you build some of those relationships the same way you would do, hey, hit these drugs or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You're doing the same activities in a sense. So it's kind of funny how you're looking at it. We want to be the cool uncle that Matt was talking about, that was like, bro, he did some crazy shit back in the day. You know what I mean? But he also got some help, and he did some things, and that's what we want to be, right? We want to be the crazy uncle that came from Vietnam. And Oric Avila said this on my last podcast, who runs a, ketamine clinic. He's like, imagine, when you looked at your uncle, and he was crazy from Vietnam, but imagine, and he was a little off, but you always looked up to him. But imagine if that guy got the help he needed and he wasn't all fucked up and he didn't
Exactly.
he didn't hang himself in the fucking garage or some shit, which is all, you know what I mean? That puts that fucking stereotype.
Yes.
But there's some stigma for some reason that men that are warriors can't talk to other warriors. So a righteous dad, we need to be able to call on our brother, even if they're corporate.
Yeah,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean? Hey, bro,
You know,
what's up, big dog?
Yeah, I heard
you-
a go ahead.
No. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
I was
Andrew.
gonna say, I heard a quote the other day, and I thought it was kind of cool. It was it said, instead of trying to give your children all the things you never had,
Yeah, teach them the things that
teach them all the things that you were never taught.
Right.
So I mean, I thought it was like a cool quote, and it might have been something you posted. I don't
Fucking
remember
righteous dad, man. That's what we talked about. The beginning mission statement was for dads that are doing whatever, how to come together to talk about our shit. My breakdown in IKEA, getting pissed off at you know what I mean? And then coming back and having someone to talk to, and how do we become better dads? What kind of books are we reading? What kind of friendships are we cultivating? You know what I mean? And how many times, like we talked about it, you know, Brendan Burchard's high performance planner. What are the relationships I'm cultivating today? Who should I reach out and talk to? Because you're looking at where my friendships are, where am I spiritually, where am I this? It's not about your job, man. Reaching that $1 million, reaching the Lamborghini status, reaching that might be looking good, but when you're fucking when you hate yourself in the mirror and your kids don't know you, like, man, that's not what you want to be, right? Right, Matt? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you don't. I mean, the biggest thing, like what y'all were talking about is it's not just being there for the ones that need the mental health. It's also being there for the ones that want to help, and
a force
giving the
multiplier.
ones that's right. There's, whenever I was down in my depression rut, and I actually had to take a step back for about 3 months from MVP, just because I just hit my depression rut, and I just couldn't handle it. And, talked to Doc about it, stepped back, came back in, but it, reignited that fire. Right. So I knew because of learning of me going through my depression ruts and not identifying and not taking the time for myself, end up fucking up with so much other shit because I didn't know how to deal with that. So now being a part of MVP and listening and talking to so many other veterans, and they have helped me to be able to, I never used this type of method before. Andrew brought up some great points and perspectives I never looked at. But guess what? I can take those perspectives and I can learn from them. Even though I may not even agree with Andrew on some things, but I can learn from his perspective and understand where he's coming from. And I think that's where we get away from, not just on mental health, but as a society, is I'm right, you're wrong. No, I'm right, you're right.
Yep.
If it's not like a scientifically fact basis, then you have your own opinion. Okay, cool. I can respect your opinion. I don't agree with it. I respect it. And I can tell you I'm going to learn from it. I can see where you're coming from, but I still agree with my opinion. And I hope you can see my point as well.
Yeah, we
It's
got
the
to
same
do it
thing with
together.
mental health.
Yep.
It's not just saying like, I want to help somebody. All right, cool. You want to help your Lance Corporals and start identifying that. Well, you have to take that step as a leader to step yourself out of that alpha male, that
The mask
bravado,
of
that
being the staff sergeant.
badass. Yeah, it's that I'm a badass fucking
role
gunny.
of the organization.
Don't
'cause
fucking
it's
come up to
it's
me
a
and
fucking
talk to
company.
me.
Yep.
That's right. You got to
100%.
be able to bring yourself, but that's a slippery slope too, Gunny, as you know, because a lot of people want to take that kindness for weakness and abuse that. But you have to set up those boundaries for you. I know my boundaries that I'm not going to cross with my friends, or, hopefully they know the boundaries not to cross with me. And it's fine. It's a relationship that can work, and it also provides that mental health support that everybody desperately needs. I don't care how big of a badass you are. I mean, I use this analogy all the time. If stress and pressure can fracture and splinter an 8-inch steel pipe, I say 8 inches. I'm fucking giving myself a lot of credit. 8 inches,
Right.
Like 8-inch fucking steel pipe.
Don't
and
hit
it
the
can
bottom,
crack
but it
it.
fucks the sides up. You know what I'm saying?
It can crack it straight down the fucking middle, 8-inch thick. What the fuck you think it's doing to an 8-pound fleshy substance that's a muscle, and that's your brain? Stress and pressure can break you and will break you. If it can do that it's nothing to play around with. You're a ticking time bomb. And if you think that you're perfectly fine and you can go through with it, that's cool. Tell somebody else that. but tell them how you're handling it so they can still be there for you and they can support you along the way. There ain't nothing fucking wrong with me saying, hey, Gunny, I'm struggling in this fucking area. I just need you to kind of spot check me for the next couple of months until I get my head back straight.
Brother, just from the Salty Sailor talks, even though I don't think I have any issues compared to some of the people that may be on it, listening to some of the stories, but I'm like, talking about it, I feel good afterwards.
Absolutely.
You
You feel you do because
I've
way I
emptied
look
some
at
of
it,
my cup. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
enough to be like, all right, I feel lighter. I can breathe a little bit more.
Yes.
And we can provide some of those resources. You discussed some of the ketamine clinics and some of the other things. I'm not saying you should go do ketamine or marijuana or anything else, but
Research.
MVP wants to be,
form your own opinion.
Yes. MVP wants to be a resource to everybody, to an outreach. So the more people we bring in, the bigger the organization gets, the more resources, the more information we can provide to help with this, the more people that are going to come in to provide help.
That's exactly
there's
right.
no limit. We went to the moon. We're going to Mars. There's no reason why we can't, fix our own issues mentally, suicide-wise, and by happiness, by being together, by, like stopping the division that's happening in our country, right? Regardless of who you are, man.
Think of somebody else besides yourself.
Right.
Like prime example, how about traffic? How about whenever you're driving, okay, I can cut this person off and they'll give me their 10 seconds quicker. How about you just not cut them off once?
Yeah.
Give them that little bit. Maybe if you would have cut them off, that would have been the straw to break their back for that day, right? They could have put them in that pit. Just start putting yourself in behind others at the same time putting your mental health. That's right. Service to others, because that's going to reinforce and it's going to give you that excitement whenever you help somebody. But at the same time, it's also going to make you better prepared for, if my children, whenever they're growing up and they start going through life struggles, it may not be a struggle I went through, but I remember Gunny telling me about it and what he did. All right, so how come my kids couldn't talk to Gun and get firsthand knowledge? Why couldn't we use that asset and use that resource to help people coming up now? You have to. It's definitely a pay it forward type mentality. You can't keep it all for yourself. You got to help your fellow dude out.
Yeah. So I mean, if you haven't done so this week, call a brother, call a friend, call a sister, whoever it is. Check in on each other, man. Make sure you're good. And sometimes that's the hardest thing, is to ask those questions like, hey brother, how you doing? You're acting a little weird. And I try to call as many people as I can now, and I'm starting to bother people. And it's funny because now I'm getting into 1 hour conversations, 2 hour conversations. Right. And sometimes it's those people that you think are the strongest that might need, the ones that are serving others at a capacity. And, that's why there's a lot of suicides and like counselors and people that are doing those kind of things, man, because they hear a lot of things, psychiatrists and stuff like that. So just check in on each other, man. And I just appreciate Matt so much. And definitely I'm so happy to have you and so blessed to have you on the podcast, because you're the co-founder of MVP, man. You and Doc have brought this into an idea and are growing it out. And I'm so excited to be a part of it, and I'm trying to do everything that I can to support it. And I think you guys are the perfect people to have on Righteous Dad. And I think it would be so awesome to just even be a little, even if we can help one person, I think it's worthwhile, right?
Absolutely.
Because, the ripple effect and the butterfly effect that can happen. And the sky's the limit for MVP. So if you want to be a part of it, you guys see underneath myveteranpassion.org, please. If the donation's great, share. If you want to be, if you want to help and you want to be like some kind of staff or some position, or you have a business that you think could help, please reach out to myveteranpassion.org, get a hold of them, and we'll get back to you. And let's defeat this suicide and this mental health shit. So I thank Andrew for staying up late over there in Virginia. I thank Matt again. Until next time, stay righteous.